Today's episode is brought to you by Gray Block Pizza. For all of your pizza needs, if you need it, they got it. If you're in Los Angeles, you could stop over there, get that taste, get that vibe, get your mouth full. 1811 Pico Boulevard in Los Angeles on the way to the beach. Gray Block, get that hitter, baby. Today's guest is one of the most successful and one of the most musically maybe provocative or I don't know, unique men that there is in the music market. He has a new album out, which is kind of a country, well, I don't know what to classify. We'll get into it a little bit, but it is Diplo presents Thomas Wesley, Chapter 1, Snake Oil. Is the new album. I suggest you check it out. It's got some real bangers on it. Today's guest is none other than Diplo. Shine that light on me. I'll sit and tell you my stories. Shine on me, and I will find a song. I will sing it just for
I mean, you did it. You did more riff raff here, right? Was it here?
Riff raff was in Florida.
Okay, so
that was
like
you kind of helped,
Yeah, I mean, I remember he was living in Baltimore, and I just was watching his videos, and I had a label. I still have a label called Mad Decent, and I was just like, man, this guy, there's something special about him, and I linked him and had him come up to LA, and we worked a little bit, and I signed him to his first album on my label, which for me, in retrospect, I think it was one of the most groundbreaking hip-hop albums of this like new generation. And people won't believe me, but every time I work with a young rapper, they always brought him up. Like, because they were like 14, 15, they watch him on YouTube, and he's like doing lines of coke or like acting crazy or just being unabashedly himself, right?
Yeah. That's what he is.
They had this they see that, and they see like this idea of like the freedom that he did, because he was like the people on Worldstar would comment just. He would blow up on Worldstar. People would like, fuck this. Like, you know, they were like, what the fuck is this bullshit? But it's like drove the videos up to where people were like so confused. And if you're like an older person, you're like, well, I don't get that hip hop. But if you're like 14 or 15, you're like, oh, I love this punk dude. Aspect of this. So like,
that's a good word. He's like punk hip hop.
Yeah, he was punk, and he was just, everything was freestyle too. I mean, that's what I'm saying with him. I bet the podcast was just so good because the guy's so fast. Like he just.
Oh, he's that cherry canary,
bro. The things
bro.
he freaking comes up with, pulls out of space, is just like, what the fuck, bro?
He's that Tangerine Lamborghini, dude. He has, what was the album called? I want to give him, I know he has a new album out right now called Vanilla Gorilla. So everybody go and get that and support Riff Raff, man.
Yeah, I love him.
Dude, I went to his place in Florida.
Deerfield.
And
where he lives?
Yep, in Deerfield. So we get there, we go to the front door, right? And I'm kind of nervous because it's almost like meeting like an endangered species.
Yeah, if you don't know him for the first time, he must be a pretty daunting creature.
Remember in Jurassic Park when they kind of are milling around and they know the dinosaurs out there?
And they just see the big old brontosaurus.
Yes. And it's kind of like that.
He's like that.
When you're riding along, you don't know where the animal's going to come from. And then we get to the front door, and it has been welded shut. There is no way.
There's no actual door?
Yes. It's just a huge piece of metal that's just welded.
How do you get in?
Bro, that's what I didn't know. So I started just saying things that I'd seen on Harry Potter, you know, like Zilicus.
trying to open the door.
And then he takes us, and then he comes out, his assistant comes out through the garage, and he met us in there.
An assistant?
He had this guy, Maserati Mike. Maserati Matt.
Yeah, he always has people around that are just like crazy people that are his assistants, but I don't know.
Crazy, but also / barber. And Maserati Mike gave me some stripes in my head too that were really, really dope. And I felt like when he did that I was
Did he have the mullet when you interviewed him?
Yeah, he did.
He had just gotten it? He has a good mullet.
Yeah. Oh, he's got beautiful hair.
I cut his brother's hair, Victor.
Is that who you did on your Instagram?
On Instagram. And he has good.
There you go, right there.
Yeah, he has a good. That's a young mullet. Now your mullet's a little fuller. Puffy. You shaved the insides a little bit more.
Yeah, it's getting a little more robust.
I have the straightest hair that like my mullet. I'm gonna get a mullet soon because it's my last thing before I just shave the head off. Because
are you going all the way back to that?
Bro, I'm 41. I mean, like, this is my last chance for growing my hair long. I don't think this is like it was like an accident. I started doing it. I'm just like, I can't turn back now. It's like a one-way street. And I'm so scared 'cause when I do it, I just give up on the dream of having long hair.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm gonna go the mullet. And but I have straight ass hair, so it's gonna look like it's gonna look like
Joe Dirt.
like like Joe Dirt.
Like Joe
but
Exotic.
I don't even have the hair that sticks up though, like how those guys, like the 80s guys had the fucking things that pop up. It's not gonna look like that. It's gonna look like, I mean, can you pull up any, like, I don't know if you can pull up any mullets that are straight hair mullet. It's pretty.
Yeah, let's go straight hair
Joe
mullets,
Exotic, but
Nick.
he had, I think his hair was, he bleaches so much it got like fluffy, but it's kind of hard to do the straight hair mullet, man.
Or almost
Stringy.
I didn't want to say it. You said it, Nick. Thank you.
Stringy hair. I have thin hair. I'll be honest, man. It's like I'm on my last leg over here. I mean, these are like
There's a lot of women coming.
that one. Go to the second one. That's what it's gonna look like. A prison, like. It's like that's what I'm gonna look like, bro. And I think it's blonde, so you're gonna think I'm bald. Really, it's gonna be pretty.
Dude, if you go full with the front really, really low cut, that's gonna be a brave move. But you're gonna feel like a stallion.
Yeah, I mean, you know who's a good mullet is Die Antwoord had a good mullet. The guy from Ninja, Die Antwoord, he has a good mullet.
Oh, who's always
He's a South African rapper. And his
Dirt
girlfriend.
Nasty was always talking about him.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh wow, he does.
And his girl has a really good mullet too.
Oh yeah, I'd watch their heads.
Yeah.
I'd watch
You never seen them? They're a rappers from South Africa that, like, he's an old school hip hop rapper, like from that era from South Africa, but he like thinks Afrikaans like the wackest culture in the world, so he kind of like made a fake version of Afrikaans rapper as like kind of a joke, but it was amazing. Like this culture of like these kind of like Cape Town, like
Yeah, I've been there a couple times.
in
I
the
really
streets,
love it
and
there.
yeah, they made fun of the whole culture of like being like white South African Afrikaans rapping, and they just made it actually cool. He made these amazing videos, like super cutting edge. I produced some of the music for them, and they made a movie about robots in South Africa. They did amazing things, like full artist. I love the guy, and that's hit the girl in the band, sick rapper too, and they both were like, they had a child together, and they're just like an awesome power couple.
Wow.
And they're doing like cool things in South Africa
For the
like,
community there?
Yeah, I think so. I think they represent like the Cape Town, like kind of like this kind of hybrid of like, I mean, South Africa to me one of the most amazing places, like culturally.
It's my favorite country, man.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, like I go there. I work a lot in Africa with like my other project, Major Lazer, and like I do shows like Nigeria. We go to Uganda, Kenya, and then South Africa is just like a bubble. Like, doesn't really, it exists on its own because it's so diverse with like people and music, and even the scene there. There's like techno music there, like African techno, African house, like African hip hop. You know, they speak Nkosa. They speak like 4 different languages. They have whole different music scenes, and they have Afrikaans. They have like, you know, rock and roll. It's just the craziest, most vibrant place. It's just like chaos there, and I love that place so much. And then if you see Cape Town, they have like these amazing communities there where they're like doing like drifting, and like they're doing like these crazy. It's just such a bizarre place.
I wonder why. Well, I guess because, I mean, obviously there's so much African culture there. Like
Yeah.
anytime I've been there, we even went up into like into the country, like away from some of the coastal areas, and went to like some black colleges, like the first black college ever, and like some places. So I could see how they just have their influences are just all over the place, because it's also real kind of avant-garde. Like they're
they had. I think there's like this. It was always the richest African country. It's terrible because, like, you know, it was colonized, and I think it was, you know, it's this hybrid of European, like 4 different tribes that are really big in South Africa. Then you have like Indian culture, and then like a lot of immigrants, and then the like, you know, like the last 20 years. I mean, apartheid only ended like the 90s, which is crazy. And then it kind of dissolved into like there's like chaos in the political universe there, but in general, it's a first world country. It's like the infrastructure was built during apartheid, and there was always like they had like a space program. You know that they had like in the 80s they had like a space program.
Dude, I'd love to see that.
I mean, it's like this kind of like sense of like, I mean, when you watch Die Antwoord in their movies and some of this stuff, there's like sense of like aliens in South Africa. You know, like this kind of he did the movie where the guys are like District 9. Like they work with that.
Great.
They're part of that community that do that kind of stuff. That's a full like South African film, and it kind of feels like, you know, the
I
message
saw that movie.
there.
That was amazing with those big aliens, kind of like it was like in a junkyard.
Like a realistic version of like how aliens. It's a movie about refugee culture.
What it would be
because the
like.
aliens are like refugees, and they're put into like this. They're put into like the ghettos.
Yeah.
And it's like if you take the idea of race and humans out of it, you think about it from a different perspective. That's the movie. It's like kind of like you think about it in a different way, like how, you know, we're actually one species, humans,
Right.
And how can you like discern like the idea of race and speed? It's just like kind of a really strong conversation because South Africa is such a violent history, and you know, it's kind of cool now because I think the younger generation of kids I see when I go and play there, they're like finally post-apartheid, like the way they think about people, and like, but if you meet people that are over 30, they still have this sense of inbred racism in their minds, you know, that they have to get rid of.
Yeah, racism is kind of fascinating, man, because some of it is, I think some of it, sadly, I think just takes time to go.
Yeah.
Because some of it isn't even some people's fault. It's the parent, it's the grand, it's just something that's like, it's almost like that Reaganomics.
It's hard.
Down.
It's hard to change your parents' minds, you know, like it's weird. And
because they lived in a different time.
Yeah,
too.
South Africa, like really when apartheid broke, I think it was like a strong, like the whole culture changed, rules changed, laws changed, and it like broke really. America's had this like sliding dealing with racism, like that's never really gone anywhere. We never really, I mean, we had like a civil rights movement, which was, you know, people always go back to that, like that was a big movement, but really nothing, when you think about what's happening now, like nothing really has changed since then for Black Americans, to where it's still like ingrained like racism in our society. And you think about places, which is amazing, we had a civil rights movement, because you think about places like Brazil, even like they never had that. They never had places like where they had a movement for like Black Brazilians and Brazilians of color, like change the government, the way the country is. But America had it, but we just still have we're dealing with racism so slowly. Right. I mean, the fact that we're still like Mississippi, I was born in Mississippi, is now have the conversation to change the Confederate flag off their flag is like, that was, the Confederate flag was put on Mississippi's flag during like the 1890s as like because of,
that was a racy time.
Yeah, it was definitely done as like a moment, like a really racist movement. And it's like, there's no reason there's no pride or heritage in that flag. Like for me, I'm born in Mississippi, and I'm proud of it. I'm proud that I was born there, but I mean, there's no reason for that symbol to mean anything to anybody. It's literally the symbol of losers, and it offends people. So I don't understand what the argument is.
Well, I think, and I can even I can't justify the argument, but I know that I think there's some people who just grew up with it not being like maybe their grandparents, it was a racist thing for, but I think there's like younger people who are just like, oh, that means that I'm Southern, or that means that I'm.
There's a lot of disinformation of like what it does mean. Like when people experience like what Black Lives Matter means or defund the police, it's like a shocking idea right in the beginning. But if you just read into it a little bit and kind of understand the concepts, you can kind of be logical about the way you think about it. If you think about the reason of that image, it's kind of easy to understand why it's uninclusive. But if you're born there and you just grew up there, you want to hold on to that because that's you. Like I understand
it's a little bit of your tradition.
Yeah, but you don't know. You don't think about, oh wait, that actually is something that was extremely racist when it was put into the flag, whatever. So then you can feel, oh yeah, that's why it bothers people. And then you got to realize, like, is it that important to you as it is to them? Because it's actually offensive to them. But for you, it just means like something that you don't really understand that it means. But
for you, it's maybe something that you put up on your wall. But I think, because I agree with you wholeheartedly. I know exactly what you're saying. The tough part is getting people to see that other perspective, really getting them to see it, And also, I think for a lot of people, and that would be my only argument against, not against it, but for understanding, like having empathy for why some people think, oh, you're taking away a piece of my tradition. It's just the tradition to them, not as much the history.
Yeah, everybody in America is like, feel like they're fighting to hold, like there's fighting for like hold on to something, like, but it's like you got to understand what's it really mean if you kind of want to define it to yourself. And if you dig that deep, you'll be like, oh, actually, you know what? It's kind of bullshit, but it might take you a while to scratch the surface.
Right, that's the thing. Get there. And that's the thing, and that's what I think. It's like having empathy for people as they figure out what's that process, and that's sometimes I think what's hard to do between different sides. It's like. I've been lucky enough to come from a place and to kind of get to another place where you can kind of get a different view of things. Even as going to South Africa, bro, I remember the first time I went to South Africa. It was the first country I ever went to outside of America.
Why'd you go there for the first time?
I was working on a reality show and they took us there.
As a trip?
Oh, yeah, as a trip. And I remember getting there, and I remember there were so many, we were in like these Soweto villages and stuff, and there's so many Black people. Yeah. Just so many. And I grew up in Louisiana, and it was really 50-50 in our area, but I remember thinking, holy smokes, all these people, and there was a lot of Christians too there. And I remember, I believe in going to heaven and stuff. And so I remember thinking, holy smokes, there's going to be a lot of Black people in heaven. I'd never.
That's kind of weird to conceptualize it that way.
It is, but I'd never thought about it. I guess I'd only gone to mostly white churches, and, not that I thought heaven was only for white people, but when I saw, it was just, some of the Soweto villages were tens of thousands of people out in these like lean-tos and shanty towns. Yeah. And I was like, holy smokes, like all these people are going to be in heaven too. And I'd never put that other countries also go to heaven. I think I thought heaven was just for Americans, you know?
It's crazy to think about America. That's the most segregated place in America is churches. Like literally, like you never see like white and black people go to church together. Yeah, it's always like a defined.
But church's chicken brings in everyone.
Yeah, church's chicken is the only place where it's like everybody's there having a good time. But I just thought about that. It's not like a bad thing. Religion's it's organized in a certain way, but you never. I went to church all the time as a young person. It was just like our neighborhood down in Florida or Mississippi was like a white church.
Yeah,
and the black church was on another side of the street or whatever, and it never was like.
The black church was fucking hype.
It was way more hype. Way more. I was like, can we go to the black church? Every once in a while.
Dude, I remember going to a black funeral and being like, damn, I want to be black, man. Because with this funeral,
with Louisiana, you have like the most amazing funeral culture. It's like crazy with the second line and like jazz funerals and like, wow, it's like just the culture.
You're definitely going to heaven. Or you're going somewhere.
100%. You're going somewhere way better than we are. Yeah. I don't want to go there and just like a guy like going, oh, dude. I want to go there where it's like fucking jazz music.
Funk, dude. I want the top of this. I want the top of the casket to be wet. Yes. That's how it is sometimes, man. We had a question that came in for you actually right here.
There's questions? Oh shit.
Not sure if our audio is up or not.
Mm-hmm. It looks like my nephew.
It might be, man.
What up, Theo? What up, Diplo, the legend? Man, Diplo, I just want to know, man, what made you want to drop the country album?
Oh, shit.
That thing slapped, dog. I bump it every day. Other than that, man, keep doing what you're doing. Gang, let's get it.
There you go. Let me see.
I was just talking to my boy, to Ernest, who worked with Morgan Wallen in the car on the way here. And we were talking about like growing up. I lived in Nashville for a couple of years, in Hendersonville, and I didn't consider myself part of like country or not. I was in the hip hop scene there doing stuff. But when you grew up there, it's like the channels are like 31 is CMT, and then 33 is BET. And I remember when I got out of school, I would watch the CMT Country Countdown, and I would watch Rap City right afterwards. And I was always like the fusion of that between commercial breaks. I would switch channels. I'd watch like, I'd see like Alan Jackson videos, and then I'd watch like KRS-One or like Wu-Tang. And I just was like, grew up with that music everywhere. And, kids in their trucks riding around doing the same thing, listening to country and hip hop. And my album isn't really a fusion of that, but I like the last couple of years, I've been like getting more and more into country because the artists are so awesome and like so much good stuff coming out of Nashville and songwriters, from Morgan to like Chris Stapleton to my guy, Sturgill Simpson.
Oh, yeah.
And there's just, I was like, damn, this stuff's like awesome. Like Maren Morris, Casey Musgraves, and I was like getting into the vibe a little bit, and I was just thinking like, what this shouldn't be a taboo thing to do, is like work on country. And when we made the first song, Morgan, it was like very controversial for Nashville, even for him, like 'cause it was a trap record, kind of. Like, I don't even think about that. I just put the drums that fit on the record,
right?
But it was like never got played on country radio. We had to get it on.
Really?
Yeah, it got on a highway and it's still not playing on country radio because they think it's too.
You guys' remake? You mean the one that's on your new album?
Yeah, it's called Heartless of Morgan Wallen, and it's like kind of like got 808s and stuff in it. Yeah,
so good.
So it's just. But it's streamed like crazy. So like all these kids are listening to it and people are doing it on TikTok. And I'm like, you kind of don't need the Nashville scene to do the country music. Like you have to, it's like a order to get in there, I felt like. And I just felt like me and Morgan, we did this record and he believed in me. I'm so glad he gave me this record. And we did it separately. We streamed the record and kids liked it. And I think like kids that are that guy's age, like high school kids and older kids are just, this music, this fusion of kind of like club and hip hop and country, which isn't forced, just we worked hard on making it make sense.
Yeah.
It really is a time for that right now where people can, like I said, no country radio is playing it. We're almost having like 500 million streams in the album already.
But it's also interesting too, because I think that younger generations, you see them, they want to find it in an alternative way.
Yeah.
And it's weird we get stuck in ways that we kind of grew up with. Yeah. Like you want to get it on this.
Like I said, like we're just talking about the churches. I mean, when you go to high school, you're like, you get in with the art kids. You get in with like the jocks. You get in with like the goth kids. I mean, if you're a black kid, you're gonna do a certain thing. Like you're gonna live with your experiences in that neighborhood. Like you might get into hip hop. It's gonna be hard for you to get into goth music or metal music, but some kids do it. Nowadays, kids don't have only the information in their neighborhoods. They have YouTube, they have TikTok, and they're getting exposed to everything. And they make the choices about what they want to be or what they want to do really, really early. Like it used to be kind of like you have these genres, and you gotta, as people, you get put into them too because of the amount of information you get. And I think the last couple of years, it's just, there's no genres. We broke that down. I think that's why it's a time where a record like this can exist, and like people aren't, or rapper, like I think Outkast is a good example. When they came out, they just broke down all barriers, and they made quality music. They made funk, they made rock, they made hip hop, they made like, trap music, and they just like crushed it internationally. And I think that was like a good example of what you could do. You can mix everything up together. And I think that from then on, they opened the door for a lot of music to just be like genreless. And I've always been a sponsor of that,
Yeah, you seem really kind of genreless, especially I feel like as you get more into like kind of learning about, what you've done and where you've gone through, and like even just the locations that you've done a lot of your shows. Like you'll do some, even just saying that you've done shows in Nigeria, Tunisia. I don't know if you said Tunisia or not, but
Uganda. We played like Uganda Independence Day.
Wow.
Because the project I do, another project called Major Lazer, is just it doesn't really, it's not like a big project in America. We had a huge record called Lean On that was here a couple of years ago, and like light it up, but never really, like the brand never worked. It's like a group of guys like me, my friend who's Jamaican, my friend Mexican, Ape Drums, and Wall Street Fire, and we're just like this diverse group. We have dancers and we do a show, but it didn't really fit into the trend in America where we're able to tour it or whatever. But in Africa, it just took off. Like that project, because I think Africa is just also a place where you see the fusion. Like you see in South Africa, it's like that diverse place, and like Uganda, Kenya, especially, we had these big shows. There were more people coming to our shows in Kenya than I could get in like New York. Dang. We have like 15,000 kids in Nairobi at our shows, and
that's crazy.
And we actually got paid really well. And then Africa's difficult touring because you have a couple markets where you can make, but Nigeria, I'd always go there and play for free. Like the first couple times I went there, because they don't give a fuck. They were just like, they had like the Nigerian music scene is so enormous and it's so big, and right now it's so influential that we had to like actually chip our way into that. And then finally had some fans come in, and then we had a couple records that did well there. And for a couple of years I just concentrated on like Africa and like Europe for touring for that project, because that's where my money was. And then being here in quarantine and the working on the country album is the first time where I've had like a record connect in America actually. So I've been just pushing that out, making videos and marketing.
Yeah, those songs slap, man. I mean, it's really good. We have a guy who works on a different podcast called King and the Sting, and he is the only black Henry Rollins fan that I know. But it's interesting to see like that a younger generation, things aren't as linear. Like we talk a lot about beige power here, that one day like we're all hurtling towards this beige skin tone eventually.
Where it's like we're going to be one person because of globalization. It's like just, it might be slower than you think, but it might be faster. And I think we're all going to work towards, one culture. I mean, we have only one YouTube, right? At the end of the day. So you have records that can go anywhere. They can get big in Africa. They can get big in China, Japan. And you have like, it also equalizes. Anybody can just upload a song to SoundCloud or YouTube and it can go. You don't need a label. You don't need... You used to need infrastructure,
because that changes there's not as much of that the glass ceiling, the doorkeepers.
You don't need to break through all these doors to get to where you are. Like if you're in a band back in the 60s, you first have to save up money to get a guitar or whatever, learn it, find people who like guitar too, become a band. Spend your energy learning songs, like divorce your wife, whatever.
Go to Sun Studios.
Find some money to go to studio, record a demo. This is already 3 years into your project. Then maybe find someone to send your demo to, and then maybe suck someone's dick at a label to get in the door or whatever.
That's true.
And then that's like three. And then
so you need a woman in the band. Crazy. You have to have, crazy. Or you need just a man. Yeah, that's just an eager man.
Yeah, you just gotta. It was so rough, and the process took so fucking long. And then maybe they'll give you a deal, which is gonna suck, obviously.
Yeah.
Then you got to force them to market your music and maybe make a video or go on tour. We're talking 5-year process to get your one fucking song out, right? Now kids are like 17, suburbs of Fort Lauderdale, have a fucking crazy ass haircut and a face tat, bang, drop a record.
And they're fucking Lil Peep,
It's got to be it's got to be a movement. Like for me, Peep was like amazing. It took me a while to like get into this music, and I became a huge fan. And like XXXTentacion, another guy, was just like, I was like, these guys are like doing it from the heart, really. Like even with Riff Raff in the beginning, you just feel like it's really raw and real. Like, cause they didn't have any, it's almost like folk music. They had no background to do it. They just dropped what they felt like they could do. And it was like people and kids connected with it. Like, wow.
Yeah. They would even be like really fucked up making the music sometimes.
I mean, Riff Raff, I couldn't fucking make a song with him without a bag of cocaine. Like it was we had a studio and there was a painting. I had like a gold record on the wall, and he fucking dug a hole behind the painting and hid cocaine there. So I was like, where's the coke coming from? Like, you always had a bag of cocaine hidden in a wall socket somewhere. And I was like, and without the cocaine, he would just be like, trying to write lyrics, like, what the fuck? And then with the coke, go in the booth, 16 fucking verses, just dropping them like left and right. So Not to say you should do cocaine, but for some people, it just helped a little bit.
But look, it's Florida. Look, that's considered a hobby in Florida, I think. And it's a little wet. That's the thing about that Florida cocaine, man. So it got a little damp on the top.
It's crazy the different places where drugs are so accessible. Like Florida, yeah. Coke was like people in high school were just doing it. I mean, I don't even know what kids are doing nowadays.
That's crazy. I don't know either. But I don't know if kids are doing as much. I want to tell a riff raff story too because it is so much fun. There's something about him. It's like seeing it's like somebody knows where there's like a frickin' like hippopotamus and they're not telling anybody else or something, you know?
He's just like, and if you get, he's had a long career now, man. He's been like doing this for like 10 years. And if you go on that YouTube
down the whole
tunnel, you can go there for like a week.
Yeah.
It's just crazy.
It gets deep.
He
cut up a mango for me, man. He said he was changing his diet. Mangoes only, he told me.
I've seen him go for a lot of different diets, man. He was on a drug bending WWF diet once.
Oh, yeah.
I think he's vegan though.
He's
for the last couple of years.
I mean, he's in
sober,
shape.
So I think he's doing good for him.
Yeah, last time I saw him, he was getting more, and that was more the vibe he was going for.
I took him to the premiere of that movie, Game Changers, which is a movie about Arnold Schwarzenegger produced it, and James Cameron. It's a movie about like how you don't know this, but the best athletes in the world are vegan, and they have been for a while. Like the biggest the guy who's like the strongman of the world, like the biggest weightlifter. This guy, Armenian guy. He's vegan. The best female like bike riders vegan. The best track runners are vegan. And I don't suggest everybody be vegan because I think it's just you got
right. But no, that's interesting though. That's an interesting through line.
But when you're doing that guy is vegan. Look at that guy.
That bone.
So you can actually get big. Or is it Iranian or something? But he looks awesome. He got the sickest. I mean, if you get the mullet and those sideburns, that guy's the Icelandic guy. That guy's a beast. He's like 7 foot tall. The other guy, but that guy, he's apparently the biggest weightlifter, and he's vegan.
Huh.
So I think
the Chris Paul was. They were talking about a new diet that Chris Paul was doing. I think it was vegan and how.
Yeah, Chris was at
helping
Chris
him.
and Chris was at the talking about the basketball player.
Yeah,
he was the premiere, and so was DeAndre Jordan, who also was.
He's
vegan.
hilarious.
He's big.
Yeah,
Texas. He actually went to high school with the Riff Raff.
Did he really?
I took him to Vegas once they recognized each other.
No.
Yeah, I was like, what?
Riff Raff has the best stories. So I get there. So I go into the garage. He shows me all the clothes that I owned from 1991. Right?
His clothes are yours.
They're his,
yeah.
But actually they could have been my childhood clothes. He just happened to have them in a box at his house. Right?
He probably could still wear them and make sense of it because
bro, he had all just anything that was
hypercolor. Yes. And anything. With the Air Jordan, like and 4 new. Colors and like, yeah.
Totally. All of that in a box. Then he's like, let's go for a ride. So he give me this pretty cool was it a bicycle? Yes, like a motorized bike. And he got on a 4-wheeler and we literally went through his neighborhood.
I thought you were going to say he gave me a bison and I rode it around Deerfield Beach. And I was like, whoa, this would be just some coke. Crash into a brick wall.
Well, the bison went and bought a couple grams while I was on it.
I was like, that's a big bison. He was strong.
I had to fucking bankroll that bison, dude. Yeah. I'm like, I don't know if Joe Rogan would eat this meat, bro. He might fucking take his own life.
You ever heard the story about the coked up bear? And there's a bunch of coke. Maybe you look up the coked up bear. This is another good story. A guy was like drug dealing and like a plane crashed, and he was like drug trafficking in Kentucky, and a bear found all this coke and ate all of it, and he was like he ate like a pound of cocaine, and it was like, and then they found this bear, and they found he was like just raging in coke in the forest, and he died within like 20 minutes.
Yeah.
But they've taxidermied, and he's like in a state hall or something. It's like the craziest coke bear. There he is,
Pablo Escobar,
legendary cocaine bear of Kentucky. But he died. He did the most coke of any animal of all time.
Does Nick Cage now own this bear? I feel like he would buy the freaking bear out of the museum.
You probably snort some of the bear's hair probably and get it.
Dude, what about Sway Lee? I saw you had him on an album. I know he's from Tupelo as well.
Yeah. Sway Lee. Actually, my only show I ever did in Mississippi was in Tupelo. They used to do that Christmas
at the casino or no?
No, it was in a like there must be a basketball arena there's a university around there or something. It was like 10,000 capacity.
Maybe northwestern Louisiana or something.
It was in Tupelo. It was like a little tiny arena there where they must have country shows and things like that. Right. But we did a show there, and honestly, bro, that show gave me a lot of faith in Mississippi because I mean I'm from Mississippi. They're both from Tupelo, the brothers, and then Elvis was born in Tupelo.
We went to his childhood home on our last tour. We stopped over there. The home he was born in. That's in Memphis, I think.
The guys who sold him his first guitar came to my show. They have like another museum there, and he used to buy hardware stores. Just used to sell musicians instruments back in the 50s, I guess. That's where you would buy. You didn't have music shops. You had to go to a hardware store, and they had a guitar up there, and they had his hardware store came and gave me like a bunch of memorabilia and stuff. But that crowd was like. I mean, it was weird. It was segregated. Like there was the groups of kids from different high schools, but it was like the first time I think Mississippi ever had a show that was like equally white and
Half and
black, and
half.
like kids just knew every lyric to every song. And you know, I'm glad they let me open because the kids didn't even know who the fuck I was. I was like up there DJing with them, but it was the mayor came out and gave me the key to the city.
Oh, that's awesome.
And
Ray Shrimmer's, I mean, those kids are amazing.
they're like outcasts to me. Like they're also like I said, kids that don't have fucking rules. Like they grew up like probably listening to everything, and Sway's voice is amazing. We did a record with Ellie Goulding called "Close to Me" that went platinum last year.
Yeah, I heard that, man. Yeah, there we were right there. Yeah, that was in Tupelo actually.
Yeah.
So that was the home that Elvis was born in. We just stopped there on the last tour, man.
Yeah, I'm a big Elvis fan.
Yeah, man.
Honestly.
It's interesting, but then they also say that, and I know we brought the guy up last time. Some of his songs were bought off of a black. Back then, I think a lot of times they were.
I mean, he was definitely ripped everything off of
Yeah.
the black rockabilly, like early rock artists. I'm not even sure what the genre was back then, but I mean, he had like 5,000 songs, like
That's
some crazy
crazy.
number in the beginning. I'm sure he had black songwriters.
Yeah,
he wrote
they
some
had-
stuff at Sun Studios with like Johnny Cash, even in what's the other guy who used to write Elvis's records? Another East Tennessee guy,
Waylon
West
Jim-
Tennessee guy.
no.
But I mean, everybody knows the Elvis story. I mean, he was definitely no, it was in Sun Studios. There's a picture of Johnny Cash, Elvis, and Carl Perkins, and there's like the four of these guys. It was just like an amazing vibe in that studio. But you can say what you want. Elvis has a
Oh, he still looked very. People loved him.
yeah. This picture's sick. Look at this guy. $1 Million Quartet is Carl Perkins, Johnny Cash, Elvis, and some other guy writing.
And Elvis got them baby cheeks. Almost like he has butt skin on his face. He
does
had
have
beautiful
butt skin.
face.
He had a nice. This early looks like he had Botox back Mississippi style.
Jerry Lee
Jerry Lee
Lewis.
Lewis.
Jerry Lee Lewis, yeah, that guy was a freaking.
Bro, he's from Vidalia, Louisiana.
He wouldn't. That guy wouldn't have made it these days. Marrying a 13-year-old
Oh, yeah, that would have,
sister.
Actually, in Hollywood, he still might have made it.
No,
but-
it ruined his career. He actually
Did it
he
really?
went to Europe and it just became like it was like an early like tabloid thing, and he couldn't really get past it.
Wow.
It
I
kinda-
saw him perform.
He was, and then
4 years
him
ago.
and Richard, Little Richard had this crazy fucking beef where they were like always like asking who could headline the shows, and I remember like it was always like they would play shows together. And it was like who's the headliner. And at one point, either he or Richard just set the whole piano on fire and like walked off stage because they opened for one of them. And then I think they became friends in the end. Like in the 80s, they did a song together, but there was like a beef.
That's gangster, bro.
Yeah, because they were both like these piano rocking Southern dudes. And then
Oh, yeah, man. Oh, he's from Faraday, Louisiana, actually, I think.
Yeah.
I saw him about 5 years ago, actually, at his daughter sang a couple of the songs, but he would come out for like every other one. They would kind of wheel him out, you know?
piano on fire and played it. Show story Jerry Lee Lewis set piano on fire. Yeah. That's like the good old days, man. When you do a show and you're so mad, probably fucking drunk as fuck, and you're I don't know what kind of drugs you're doing, but then
Quaaludes or something, you know?
You seen Walk Hard, that movie with John C. Reilly?
Yeah.
Oh my, you gotta watch it. It's one of the fucking best music documentaries of all. It's fake, but basically John C. Reilly does everything, like invents country, invents like punk, invents like he's Brian Wilson in
It's
a while
like
in
the Forrest
studio.
Gump of
Yeah, Forrest Gump, but it's like they
music.
kind of do the Johnny Cash song, the Johnny Cash movie.
Walk hard or walk tall.
Walk Tall, and they call it make fun of that, but John C. Reilly does every genre and like is this crazy country guy and has like 100 kids by the end of the movie.
Dang.
Does every drug
Yeah.
by the end of the movie.
Dude, in those days, you were pulling up in town and somebody just say, hey, these are drugs. And it would just be like almost.
The movie's so funny because everybody's like, he walks into the back room and is what's the black comedian, the SNL guy was in the movie?
Tim Meadows.
Tim Meadows, every time he walks in the backstage, Tim Meadows like smoking weed. He's like, what are you doing? Tim Meadows like, it's marijuana, man. You don't want to do this. He's like, what does it do? It makes you feel happy and it mellows you out and you feel great. You don't want to do this. He's like, I think I want this marijuana. And he does that. And then the next like 10 years later, he's like, what are you doing? And he's like, it's called cocaine. It's like, what does it do? It's like, I don't know, man. You don't want this. It makes you feel great and excited. I'll try the cocaine. And it's like heroin. Then like 3 years later, and it's just like every
And it's not addictive at all.
Oh, and he looks like Jim Morrison in the picture. Look at that photo. Oh, bro, you gotta watch this movie. It's my favorite movies of all time.
Wow, dude. No, I got to watch it. I just watched Uncut Gems last night.
That's dark,
Bro, it was good, though.
I wanted the guy to die so bad, man, because he just wanted the pain.
Yeah, he was an addict in every way.
There's no way this is gonna end well. You just know, like, you want him to get back with his wife, but the side girl was hot, and then you want him to win, but you know you're never gonna win, and then
Yeah, and then you want
and
him.
then he does, and you're like, oh fuck, this came together, and then he dies. Spoiler alert, but yeah.
Yeah. The last gem gets cut.
But what's awesome about that movie, bro, is the fucking soundtrack is phenomenal. And I think
it was a unique way to do a soundtrack. It was sound that I felt like, this is my perception, it was sound that made me feel
uncomfortable.
Yes, and it made me it was like sound that tried to get me just through small sounds and repetitive beats to get me feel a certain way.
One of my favorite musicians of all time is Hans Zimmer, and I love Blade Runner, and the new Blade Runner I loved even more. And the soundtrack was so fucking amazing. I love ambient music, and I love that kind of like futuristic music. And the guy who did the soundtrack, I think his name is 10 Point Tricks. This is ambient guy, and the fact that the director went with that guy to make a movie, and it felt so wrong that when it's in the movie, the weird like synths, but then it really puts you on edge on the right level for you to be uncomfortable watching that movie.
Yeah, I never felt like that. I never felt like I'm watching the movie, I'm enjoying it, but also something else is happening to me.
Yeah.
And what is causing that? And it was just
because soundtracks are really difficult to do and like to make, because you have to watch the film and like put it in. You gotta kind of get closure with the whole film coming together with the sound. And that guy, he crushed it. I love that. I love the soundtrack more than the film, actually, when I listen back to it.
Have you been pushed to do soundtrack? Have you done it before?
No, but that movie made me want to do it. Because I during quarantine, I haven't really worked on a lot of new music. Mm-hmm. I've been putting out some of the country stuff and working on some house music, but I just don't first, you don't want to do sessions because this isn't really, you don't really want to get anybody sick or whatever, or you don't want to get sick, but then I don't feel like you can't really sit down during this weird time. It feels a little more like less heavy than it did in March and April now, even though it's technically worse, I guess, with some other cases. But
the vibe is a little different now. It's not as...
It doesn't feel as anxiety attack feeling, like you don't feel like... You feel like there's going to be ending in sight. Some people are getting out of it. Like New York City, for instance, beat this thing, so we can do it. But in the beginning, I had like a lot of anxiety attacks. I just felt like weird. You don't want to like write a song about like a love song. You don't want to you can't write a pop song during all that vibes. The energy is not right. So I was writing a lot of ambient music. I was just like doing stuff with synths and making these records that were just like spacey and like no drums. And I did a whole EP that I'm gonna drop at some point that I just made. That's the only thing I've done during quarantine is like that kind of music.
Just sounds.
Yeah, sounds and like kind of. But it's like kind of classical music, but with synths. Like that's kind of what neoclassical music and ambient music is. It's like you put chords together and you kind of build things up with like arpeggiators, and then you Brian Eno at all? You heard him? He produced U2's Joshua Tree, and he's like an ambient artist, but he kind of combined these new ideas with sound with pop records back in the 80s, and just amazing. I would consider him a composer. But it's like being a composer, I guess, doing this kind of music. I've just been that.
Do you get like a little bit jealous whenever you see somebody like do something like a loophole or something, or kind of like you start to see the new thing? You're like, oh.
Yeah, that's how you work on music. I'm a producer more than an artist. I think with the country album, it's the first time I've done like a full artist record on a major label. But before that, I've always just been like, Beyonce wants a record, Usher wants a record, a rock band wants a record, or I work in the studio with different writers and propose ideas and I come up with concepts. That's what a producer does. You kind of like, you work with an artist and you think, like even with Riff Raff, you're like, how can I make what I like about this guy? How can I make the best version of him? That's what you do with anybody. Maybe it's Madonna, maybe it's Adele, whatever it is. You aim for the biggest records and big artists. Then you work with someone like Riff Raff because you're just like, this is fucking awesome. Like this is something really cool and I love what he does. Or Sway Lee, and you can find new artists too. But as a producer, your job is to create concepts and maybe not even writing the piano. Like you can be like Rick Rubin and just sit back and just like fine tune that idea with the Chili Peppers or whatever.
But is it hard to figure out though? Like sometimes I find even from myself from doing comedy and doing just different types of things within the world, is it hard to figure out what some of your real strong suits were and then to focus on those even if those went against like sometimes somebody people want to be the star sometimes, but then you're like, oh man, but I'm so good at this, but this weird idea of a star always.
I've never been really good at anything, even playing music. I've always been like I said, I would come up with like weird. I find the loopholes where no one was doing stuff. Like Major Lazer started because like no one was making this like reggae and dancehall music, and I had done stuff with this girl in MIA who was like my girlfriend at the time. We made amazing records.
Oh damn, dude! And then I went to MIA. This is just because it's full circle, really quick. I saw John C. Reilly at an MIA concert in New Orleans it started
at
like
the House of Blues.
No, this was in like a warehouse or something. It was like 4 a.m. it started, but so anyway, it's the only time I've ever seen John C. Reilly.
I wonder if I was there because I DJ'd for a lot of her shows back in those days. But we did this fusion. She was an artist that really put me on to like how far you could go with just ideas. And she had these ideas and she fucking crushed it. And I learned a lot from her. And I think we started like this Major Lazer thing because I was like, no one's doing this. And we could do it in a different way, like dancehall records and reggae, because no one's doing it. And it took a while. We made some big records and then it grew. But it was something no one was doing.
Yeah.
And then back then, no one was even streaming music. You know, we worked really hard in the streaming services because a lot of the majors were not really pushing streaming. They were still fighting to sell physical copies. And I did it all independently. We did it on our own. And I learned a lot from there. But I think you find little projects like that people don't do. And sometimes you take risks and they don't work. Like my first album I produced was a band called Rolo Tomasi. And it was a fully metal math rock band. I didn't know what I was doing, but I just did it because that was my first job. And then the next day I was working with Bruno Mars. And we were doing like, he was a songwriter back then. When I first moved to LA, I just did whatever jobs I had. You just make your way up to where you could hopefully place a big record with somebody. And you did learn a lot. Like I learned everything from coming to LA and leaving behind the idea of being an artist and being like a producer in the game here. And then as I got better at that, I was like, kind of got sick of that. Like I don't want to write records with other people.
Right.
And I started doing my own little projects and
just being creative.
Yeah, because, doing a project, writing the music is, for me, I think it's like 20% of the project. The other 80% is coming up with the concept and the marketing and like what it is, video things. Like you think about the name, of the style, the way you're going to address this project. You kind of come up with you create the artists. And that's 80% of what artists are nowadays, in my opinion. You have to come up with like a real brand,
right.
And that's what people get first. And the music comes secondly. Like if you see someone like this fascinating, you're like, oh, what is this? And you dig into it and you're like, oh, the music's
Riff Raff's a great example.
Yeah, he's all brand. I mean, he was just like, his music's great too, but it was all brand. But another, like Marshmello, another guy, he's a DJ and I think, he might be like 90% brand because he's just like, the concept is so strong what he does. It's so easy to identify with. And then he puts out quality music as well. Like he's pop artists, but I mean, no other DJ could do that because they're just another guy.
Yeah.
He's a Marshmello. So it's like,
right.
Kids can gravitate to that really easy. And I think what he did is a great marketing campaign from the jump. His manager and him really crushed that.
Yeah, him and Kane Brown have that great
they got a country record.
That great song.
Yeah.
I
had that record originally. He sent it to me.
Really?
I actually was like texting Kane. I was like, man, it was like me and Marshmello fighting for that record actually in the beginning because it was going to be something for my project. And then I lost the battle.
Oh.
It's whatever. Kane Brown, you still owe me a record, bro. Where are you
at? There you go,
So
Kane Brown, man. I love Kane Brown.
Yeah.
New Orleans, when I was growing up, a lot of the artists that were there were like the big timers and Lil Wayne.
Did you watch that Hip Hop Evolution, the New Orleans episode?
I need to see
great.
I'm gonna rewatch this whole episode and write down all the things I need to
The one in New Orleans
out.
starts with like Master P, and I mean New Orleans for me, bro. It's first of all, I think Memphis has the longest cultural significance in hip hop.
Right.
People can argue me, but like when you think about what music sounds like now, hip hop, it all comes back to this Memphis sound, like this aggressive, this dark, and the trap beats, and like it's just lasted forever. And it was a small flash in the pan when 3 6 and like 8 Ball and MJG were doing it. And then New Orleans was like the same kind of sound. They had this like electronic drum sound. They loved electro, and they loved like Manny Fresh was making like these kind of like 808 sounds, and they mixed it with the second line jazz, and then big timers, and then Master P came up with the idea of independent label, and he fucking crushed it. And then Cash Money came out, and they had this amazing bounce music, which I love so much.
Well, and that's what I was going to get to is the bounce scene, because like Big Frida, like some of the artists, she's the most popular, but the bounce scene there has been probably the biggest thing that's come out of New Orleans.
It never
in a
left,
while.
and it's the same.
Right.
Frida. I worked with this. I worked with a couple bounce artists. There's Flyboy Kino. There's Sissy Nobi, and it's very gay. It's crazy. People don't realize how gay the hip hop scene in New Orleans is. A lot of the rappers and labels, you talk to like Mystical or like
I love Mystical, man.
These guys.
Car wash once.
I was with Mystical in the studio.
No.
And after I got out of jail, and I had just done this record called Express Yourself with Nikki DeB, who was another gay bounce artist from New Orleans, and it's like my fusion of like dance music and New Orleans bounce back then. And I remember playing it for Mystical in the studio, and I was like, man, could you jump on this? It was super gay, and the video was gay too. And I was like, can you jump on this record? And Mystical said to me, he was like, bro, that's hard. That's actually New Orleans music. And he knew that's actually the scene. He wasn't like homophobic or anything, but he's like, man, I just can't come out of jail and do this record right now. I can't really like do a verse on a gay bounce record. But
he'll be like, I'll be right back in jail.
He's like
a whole group of new friends.
but at the same time, he had respect and like knew that that's like real New Orleans music. Because if you don't realize, like even the Big Frida's in that record with Drake. that came out last year.
I didn't even know that.
Because Drake's last album had a lot of bounce influences, a lot of New Orleans records on it.
But there hasn't been a strong. Hip hop's been the only, or bounce has been the only real music to come out of that area. Kind of, I feel like
there's that
it's
one
interesting
rock
if there's
band in the '90s.
Oh, you mean Third Eye, Three Doors Down?
Something like that. I used their studio when I worked on music with them.
Oh, I know who you're talking about. They're nice guys too.
Yeah, that's the only other thing I know from New Orleans, really.
I remember running through the wet grass, falling a step behind. I think.
And there's a jam band from New Orleans too, but I forget. Best. Fucking. Also the Meters, bro. You know them?
Oh, dude. One of them owns a freaking restaurant where I take my stepdad all the time. And
I mean, if you want to learn, for me, Meters is funk and country. Completely mashed. You might just think they're funk, but they're like country, bro. And they're instrumental. Like Meters are like one of my biggest influences of all time. Like they're so dope. Like a New Orleans funk is just like, if you want to learn about music, New Orleans is the birth of all American music, in my opinion.
Wow.
Like everything comes from New Orleans. You know, from the history of like, it's the perfect combination of African music and European music. And
go back.
What was it?
No, that's not them.
What band is it?
Three Doors. It's not Three Doors. It's
something
Third
like
Eye
that.
Blind. Dog. Something.
It's like a one word name.
Oh, we might be thinking.
Just look at indie band New Orleans, maybe indie band, indie rock New Orleans.
But there hasn't been. Do you think there's a reason why there hasn't been a strong hip hop artist that's come out of there in a while? I mean, you think there would be so.
Well, is it NBA Youngboy from Baton Rouge? Is that his name?
I'm not sure.
He might be the biggest. Oh, there's Kevin Gates.
Yeah.
NBA Youngboy's is he from Baton Rouge? I mean, he's like one of the biggest.
Born.
Like low key.
Yeah.
Yeah, Baton Rouge. He like low key. He's one of the biggest figures in hip hop, and I don't even know one NBA Youngboy song, but like he just. Every girl knows him and knows his music. He just is always.
People love him. And Boosie, but he lives in Atlanta now.
Yeah, Boosie is. That guy just came out of jail. Like he was like, he missed all technology and then just came.
Wasn't it so great? He denied it. I asked him because he came in. I asked him. I said, "Did you think that because you were in jail, you missed kind of like the evolution of technology? So you came into Instagram and were just way too real on it."
He was so
but
real.
It didn't register for him. But I thought that's exactly what I thought.
Because I heard a story that he got out and his like friends gave him an iPhone. He's like, "What is this?" Like he was like, it was like literally came out of jail and like went from he missed the clutch parts of technology in hip hop and just came back like insane. Like he's a legend though. Anybody you come back to him, a lot of people like if you do like that dirty hip hop, he's the guy. And that's I don't know much about Baton Rouge. I only went there once to I actually went to Lil Boosie. I was in Baton Rouge for like my birthday. I had nothing going on. I was in New Orleans for my birthday when I like turned like 24. I just went by myself to like read and I love Louisiana, just like go to bars and stuff. And I had a friend there and we went to see Boosie did a concert at a mall in Baton Rouge.
Damn.
And I went and saw him before he went to jail. And that's the only time I've ever been in Baton Rouge was go see Boosie at a mall.
Awesome.
So
man, we had so much
I fucking
fun.
love him.
Dude, when he left, it was one of the first times I ever felt like, man, I wish he was still here. Like
I'd be scared as fuck to hang out with him.
Well,
I would have not even like.
I should have told you before he came in, bro.
I'd be so scared.
Glenn Davis was on. He's a basketball player, big baby. He played for the Celtics, and he came on. He was like, "Now Boosie's a real gangster, man."
Yeah.
He said he's one of the last.
Big baby
gangsters.
he played for the Clippers for a while.
Yeah.
Didn't he play for Florida University of Florida?
Oh, he played at LSU.
LSU.
Yeah.
There's another guy, Demetrius something, was another big giant center, like fat basketball player. It was called Demet Hook. Remember him?
Oh yeah.
But I forget his name. I always thought,
who was that guy?
'cause Big Baby was not. He didn't look athletic, but he was a Clipper. We loved him. When he scored points, the crowd went crazy for him.
People love him. Well, he's extremely lovable. He has such a good.
He does not look like a basketball player, honestly.
No,
but
he's
he did it.
75% heart. You know.
Dimitri Hill is
Dimitri Hill. He was big too. I remember watching him play.
But he lives in Las Vegas now. He loves being. Actually, he just hit me up after Dustin Poirier won that fight, and they ended up connecting. Man. Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
No, is that the meat hook?
Is that's Demetrius? He played for Gators. I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's him.
He was a big boy.
Dang, it's always fun when you see them big boys do it, huh? It's always fun, man.
Shaq was big too, but he ended up he wasn't really that muscle. But he's built like a big giant human being. Because a lot of the centers are not like that.
Not well. They really don't have that center position anymore. Shaq in college, you throw up a picture of Shaq at LSU. He was lean at LSU, man. He was long.
I mean,
lean.
who's that Lakers player? It's just like cut. I don't think he plays for Lakers anymore. Maybe Rockets.
Dwight Howard.
He's just like the first like buff basketball player.
He's a model. I feel like I always felt like he's more of a model.
Yeah, look at the little baby Shaq.
I mean, you look at young Shaq.
Man, I DJ with Shaq sometimes. He's like
really?
I played his podcast this weekend. And he did like a stream, and this guy is fucking dedicated to DJing, bro, and he fucking loves it. He's a dubstep DJ, and he's most aggressive DJ I've ever seen in my life. He just goes, he dances, and before quarantine, every show he did, he would go out in the audience and hang out with everybody in the audience, and you just could see him. He's like towers over everybody, but he's just like.
What is it you think that he really loves doing it, or he loves the vibe it creates?
Have you hung out with him? Have you talked to him? Because he's just happiness, bro. He just loves. He just found a lot of like contentment and like happiness after the game. I think he became, he's a sports commentator he's just smart and awesome. Look at this guy, bro. The crowd. He's just, I love it.
That's so crazy.
Outside Lands, like he is one of the most aggressive DJs ever. Look at him. He can't even fit in the booth.
Dude, so that's what it looks like when you're in there, huh?
Yeah, I don't look like that, but it looks.
Well, yeah, you look small. You're smaller.
I'm tiny. Yeah.
Does it almost feel like sometimes like I notice on stage if I'm doing stand up, I can feel a crowd. I can feel what's going on. It's almost like at some points it took a long time, but I feel like it's like
that's when you get in the pocket.
Like I'm an orchestra.
Yeah,
like
when you're good too. At that point, you can just like you said, like then you just flow, right? It must just feel right that.
Yeah. Well, but there's an energy connection. In the beginning, it's this nervous other energy where it's like, I'm trying to make sure I'm doing my job.
Yeah.
And then later it becomes this energy where it's like, oh, I'm orchestrating the feeling of this environment.
Yeah.
What is that feeling like when you guys are doing your job?
I think when you DJ, it's always, it's even more than stand-up. You have to really feel the rhythm of the crowd to even pick the records you're playing. I mean, I'm more of a open format DJ, so I kind of do whatever. I kind of improvise. A lot of people just go to their concerts and they kind of
the set list,
you know.
Right.
And I do that when I'm headlining somewhere because I have to program my lights. But mostly I'm in Vegas. I'm like doing 3 hours. I'm just like looking at the crowd and playing records I want to play, and then going where I trying to go there. Like, you know, with the jokes, maybe you go. Maybe it's not funny, but you want to push something or whatever.
Yeah.
Even with controversy, which is probably really hard for comedians. I mean, you must walk the line now, but you want to go as controversial, then you pull back, whatever. So I think with me as a DJ, you want to like sneak things in and like that's what DJs. That's what we've always been. We've always been the people to push the boundaries. We're the purest form of the distribution chain. Like music happens, and we're the ones that give it to people in a nightclub or somewhere where they can feel the music for real. Like because you can't really feel it in your car on the radio. You might get pop records, but we make dance music and hip hop to where we are. Our job is to push it as far as we can to be the best DJs.
Well, it's interesting. Yeah, it makes me think almost like if I'm in a supermarket, you got the area where everything's like in the boxes and it's all boxed and packaged perfectly for you. Then you got that produce area.
And that's
shit's
wild,
a little
Wild West.
You might find an orange in a fucking cucumber area.
That's the real food. Yeah. But you know, I grew up. My sister, I remember going to eat at her house like when I was back in town, and she only eats canned vegetables because we grew up like that, and she has it's always like the Publix cans or like fucking what's the other shitty ass Albertsons or Piggly Wiggly, and she just has never been to the produce section. Wow, she didn't know what it is. She didn't know what a green bean looks like. It was like unless it's wet in a fucking can.
Unless it looked like it's been through. It looked like it's been in Guantanamo Bay.
Green bean in a real one. She's like, what is that thing? And I was like, she's like, green beans look like this, and I'm like, okay. My family would just only ate out of cans. I don't know what. And my mom.
Well, I think it was just that time period too.
Yeah, it was and I think produce isn't it? Yeah, you know what? Produce section didn't really exist in like the 80s.
It wasn't, man.
You might get some bag of apples or whatever. A bag of apples. You weren't going to select your own apples.
No,
no.
Yeah.
The government's going to select those apples for you. Sorry.
Yeah, man, those apples, dude. Yeah, those apples knew each other before they got here. You know, I'll be damned if you're gonna feel.
You're not gonna. No, back the fuck away from those apples. Here's your bag, motherfucker.
Damn, dude, that's so true.
I just realized as an adult growing cropping, I'm like, I always go to the produce and like buying shit. But when I was younger, mom didn't let you go over there.
Yeah, it was.
That's
different.
for the liberals, sir. The Democrats go shopping for the produce section.
What's that man over there feeling on that cat? Yeah. Why doesn't he have a wife?
Nobody needs to pick their own pineapple. Government does that for you.
Let's get a question right here.
All right, what's this guy talking about?
I don't know. He's driving.
Theo. Oh. I got something going on in the background.
You can call me anything.
Is he singing the demo? Got a good voice.
That'd be good.
I'll sign that guy.
That would have been a great idea.
Sounds like Shawn Mendes. Let's go.
Now you're remixing
What up,
podcasts.
Theo? What up, Diplo? Hope you guys are doing great. Hey, real quick, Theo, I'm sporting my Wildcat hitter.
Bear down, baby.
Bear down. Diplo, I just had a question for you. Would you ever consider doing a fresh banger with our boy Tekashi 6ix9ine now that he's out of jail and all? I know Theo would love that.
Huge.
Yeah, let us know.
I'm a huge 6ix9ine fan, honestly.
His music, bro. He puts the music out, and I wait for it. I even show up at the time he tells me to be there.
If he's having an Instagram live, I gotta stop the car and watch it. I mean, honestly, he's the first. Just the fact that he broke down. I mean, I just love him just for being just the fucking biggest punk ass there is. Like, it's just like I love all that, and I love that hip hop had this like it's kind of boring now. Like it's kind of like there's the older guys, they don't go away, and they kind of like talk about the same shit. And
they're beef and bullshit.
Yeah, and they're all bullshit beef, and he's actually just fuck you.
Yeah.
And fuck you. Here's a picture of you being a bitch, and like he's not scared of anybody. And I just love that he just kind of deconstructed hip hop in a way. And people are like, no one can kill him. It's like impossible. I don't know. He came and bothered the guy, and I just
how can you not kill him? He's wearing the brightest color shit in the whole world.
And he just has all these like he always talks about I'm rainbow hair guy, and you what the fuck? Why are you mad at me? Like I mean, I just love that he didn't have the number one with that first single out of jail, and then he learned how to do it, and he did the tie it in with the sales of the clothes and the physical, and it's all like fucking hack at this point. He just hacked it, and he learned from it and got the number one, and fuck everybody. I love the actual fuck you to everybody that he did, and he came and did it. Yeah. So I love him, and I'd love to work with him. I know him. His label head really well. We worked on ideas back before he went to jail, and I haven't connected with him since then. But I'm also not really doing hip hop right now. But I would do something with him just because I love him as an artist.
Yeah.
And it's controversial. People probably like something that sucks, but I fucking fuck with him hard. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I feel you, man. I do too, dude. I'm like. And I love how there's all these haters that he's against. It's almost like this invisible world, that he's created in his head.
It's real renegade, though, I think. Yeah.
It is. Well, even when you said deconstructed, I'd always heard people say, I'm going to deconstruct something, but I never kind of knew what they were talking about. Yeah. But just now when you said that, it's...
because hip-hop has these sort of like, you think about these rules and these little things, and he just kind of like embarrassed everybody to like kind of like, people actually don't beef with him. They're scared of him now. Because
like, what the fuck y'all doing, man? I'm on house arrest.
You can't win because he'll just do whatever. You can't. There's no rules for him,
Yeah, dude. He's got, and then he gets Nicki Minaj in, which is crazy because they're always fighting over who's Nicki Minaj's boyfriend.
Yeah, but she was with him on the record Fifi back in the day. I think she just also loves his. She's very controversial too. She'll say whatever the fuck she wants. And I got a record coming out with her in Major Lazer this month, and I love her. And I worked with her a couple times, and she is a fucking hard worker, bro.
Is she really?
Yeah.
I've never really been a fan.
She, as a rapper, lyrically, I mean, she's like no one can touch her, I feel like. And then at the same time, like we did this song together, and she went back and forth. Like I'm just like small song, maybe it'll be big. She liked the record and she did it for me, and she likes me, I think. But she just went back in the studio like 4 times to cut it. I didn't even ask her to. She's like, I want to change this part, and she went like a bunch of times, asked me my advice on it, and
a real pro.
She's a real collaborator, and she does it. Like her and Madonna are 2 women that were just like, they work harder than me, and that's hard. I feel like I work pretty hard, so they both like.
It sounds like you do, man. I wish that they could take your brain whenever you pass and just splice it into like literally hallways of a library where people could walk through and see what you.
Might be some stuff in there, man. I don't know if you want to open that up, man.
Look, we'll have a special area.
Yeah, I mean, might need to define where you can. Someone's got to be blocked off.
Those double doors. Remember back in the day, they used to have a video store, and they would have the double doors where the pornography was.
I would sneak in there all the time.
Me too.
Growing up in Florida, like I would go to my grandma's house. My parents would just drop me off. They're like, fuck, they couldn't afford summer camp or nothing. I had nothing to do. They would just drive me 4 hours to New Smyrna, this little small town, drop me at grandma's, and I could only walk in my little sand. We don't have dirt roads in Florida. We had sand roads.
Wow.
And I would walk fucking mile to the video store. My grandma would give me like $5. I would just rent every WWF video. I watched every WrestleMania because I never paid for the pay-per-views. I watched like the last 5 years. I watched like one summer I watched like 500 wrestling contests, and then every kung fu movie there was. Then I found the porn area.
Oh yeah.
Couldn't rent those, but I would go. I'd go back
read the
there.
boxes,
I go right.
bro.
I go see those boxes.
Dude, I read the boxes with my dick out,
Can
bro.
you rent? I mean, just the awkwardness of like going to the and then renting them and then stand in front of somebody and have like a stack of like these dirty pornos. Like,
But dude, there's almost more of a respect there. There's a line in the sand where you're like, okay, am I doing this or not? Do I mean this or not? Yeah. Now it's too easy access. There's no like.
You can be. It's too much privacy. Back in the you're a fucking pervert. We're gonna see.
Yeah.
Who's a pervert?
Person's
or you can stand
know.
outside. There's always a sex shop too that has like the pornos and like. In Philly, there's like this one little area. They probably cleaned it up since I was living there, but there was like one little area where they had like the shops where you would just go and you could just jerk off and like watch a girl behind the glass and they would do things.
Damn.
There's like this like shops and then you go and there's video stores and there's dildos. I mean, in New York had that shit too.
I never seen
the idea
that.
of the sex shops doesn't even like. I
I've
guess
seen it
it's
in
not a
Amsterdam.
thing anymore. Not full on hookers. I'm talking about like there's this area in Philly where just like and
You can see a real woman through glass.
Yeah.
I did that once in Amsterdam. I've never seen that anywhere else though.
And she would just do a thing. It's kind of like what a chat what's it called now? The cam girl would do.
Yeah.
In real, but the ones over there in Philly were probably pretty.
Dude, I remember
rough.
this. Now you make me think of it. This one time I was in Amsterdam, and so they had a thing. You go in this little cage, kind of, and everybody's glass opens up, and there's a wheel. There's like a lazy Susan in there, and it has people, and there's like a man and a woman having sex, and everybody's. Then you can see everybody's faces.
Oh, you can see everybody else. I thought it wouldn't be a mirror to see. That's awkward.
No, that's the awkward
That's
part.
awkward. The mirror goes up, and you guys already like jerking.
Yeah,
and you're like,
you
all
can
right.
see it, bro. It's weird. So you realize you got to look right at the couple.
Yeah.
You can't be straying visually. And then the crazy part was everybody else's slides went down after they were done, after the 15 minutes or whatever. Mine didn't go down or something. So I had, another crazy part was watching the couple who were now dizzy from the thing spinning help each other off of the thing. Yeah.
It's like when your kid on one of the little Ferris with the park, and you let your kid walk away, and he just stumbles. It's kind of drunk. It's always
like
fun.
One of his ears weighs 40 pounds. You've done so much with music over the years, and especially so much, I think, with diverse. Let's get a question right here. This guy actually looks diverse. Let's get him in here.
All right, what up? Kev here from Toronto. Diplo, where'd you rather party? Trinidad or Jamaica? Soca or dancehall?
That's a tough one.
What's it gonna be?
I'm gonna say Trinidad. He's probably Trini. Looks like he's from Toronto. Has a big like Trini diaspora. But I just had a baby in Trinidad with my ex-girlfriend, and she's like she's an awesome girl. And I haven't seen the baby because I was gonna go there in March for a show and stay there for a month, and then we have a travel ban. I have to quarantine in Trinidad.
Wow.
And so I would go to Trinidad. I need to go there as soon as possible. But the city itself, Port of Spain, Trinidad's like, people don't know this, but it's kind of like this probably one of the wealthiest Caribbean countries, has good surf, has this amazing music culture, but it has this crazy mashup of like, European, African, and Indian, just kind of all like living there and working in this crazy music scene. Of course, soca, they have reggae dancehall. We used to do parties there. Major Lazer had a show there every December, and it was at this water park, and it was like the craziest show we'd have, like people on shoulders, like water flowing everywhere, like crowd doing all the different dances together. And I mean, Trinidad, it was just legendary, and I miss going there to do shows. But if you get a chance, check out Trinidad, man.
Good place,
for Carnival. I think it's like in the end of February, same time, like right before Mardi Gras. So you can actually, I did a tour last year. I did or 2 years ago. I did Carnival in Brazil. Had a show I went to Trinidad to see the Carnival. I had to do a show there, and then went straight to Mardi Gras and did all of the circuit basically, because it's all around the same holiday.
Right. So what was that vibe like? Was there like obviously they must have differed from each other?
Oh, 100%. The Carnival in Brazil is just like the Super Bowl. I mean, there's like a samba drum. They have their own stadium just for the Carnival floats, and it's just, the music is insane. It's like the whole country parties at once. It's just so sexualized and beautiful at the same time. Everybody's so fucking happy. And then Mardi Gras in New Orleans just fucking trash, like in the next level. Fucking. But we had this really awesome party. Is it a total
drop off from one of the other?
No, but I love it so much because I actually went to see some of the floats at Mardi Gras for the first time, because I've been there for parties, and I was like, damn, these floats are awesome. Like all the different, they're really cool. It was such a lower level, but I'm like, you see like the black community floats and like the second line, you see like the white people doing like the things, and it's like the one thing everybody's kind of is together on the side of the roads and seeing everything. And I played a party with good friends of mine, band called Arcade Fire. You know those guys?
I've heard of them, yeah.
Win Butler is the lead band guy, and he's also a basketball player, and he has a party there called Carnival Crew, and it was amazing. It was like drag queens, and like we had Choppa played with me, and it was like he DJ'd, and it was like a Haitian band playing Haitian music, and it was like just like this really like multi-cultural. It was like an amazing party, and just like the most inclusive party you could have in New Orleans. Like
there's a lot of that there.
That place is kind of anything. That's why I'm saying like the bounce scene is gay. The city itself is so DIY. Like kids go there, like punk kids. There's a lot of punk bands like in New Orleans, and like punk kids. They go there and they can get a warehouse space, and they have a little commune, and they make their own little restaurants or whatever. And it's like you don't have. This might sound fucked up. I think Katrina might have done the most work to preserve the culture of New Orleans, because right before Katrina happened, it really felt like New Orleans was destined to be this big destination, and like people were buying property and hotels were coming in there, restaurants, and the Katrina just wiped out all the investment, like in a way, and people left. There was like 400,000 people in before Katrina, and only like 200,000 left.
Yeah,
and the city had to start over again. But what didn't stop was that all that cultural movement didn't really end, and it just got bigger and more. It's isolated, you know, and you need the isolation kind of to build sometimes. And I just think New Orleans for me is like my favorite place in the world to go, all over the world, just because it's spontaneous and crazy, and you don't know what's going to happen. And I love that.
Well, you know, it's so interesting. You talk about the investment side of it. It's funny, like, you know, something really unique and special can start somewhere, be it a festival, be it like a vibe, anything. But then eventually money comes in because they want to own stuff in the area. They want to make it bigger. Yeah. And then it kind of like, it weakens stuff over time,
100%.
You know? But it's so funny because if you didn't have money in the area, but then it's funny because it's like we want money in areas to help. Yeah. But then it's from no money that usually really beautiful things can come from.
Art comes from like, you know, desperation a lot of times.
So it's so funny to just have that dichotomy. It's like like when I was young, man, I'd have given anything to be able to for us to have some money, for my mother not to work, for, you know, to just have a little bit of time where we could have, I don't know, just felt like not ashamed of who I was or something. You know, just I don't know. You know, I wish we'd have had some money, a little more comfort. Yeah. But then it's like,
but you had to work. You had to work harder to do what you do. You know, I think for me, like I moved to Philly to go to university, and I had like nothing there.
Did you go to Temple? Where'd you go to?
I went to Temple. Yeah,
you did. Dude, Temple's fucking wild. If you get up there on, is that Front Street? What is that street?
My parents went to visit me. Yeah. My parents went to visit me. It's on
Cecil, a fucking bird
Market in Cecil B. Moore. It's
somebody trained a crow to drop off fucking cocaine for him up there one time.
Yeah, the drug they run drugs on birds up there. Actually,
people would park in the middle of the fucking street and go do what they need.
But if you just go, Temple is like a little bubble of like, you know, university. But any outside of that area, North Philadelphia, it just looks like Apocalypse Now. Like it's burned out buildings and like it's fucking street by street, just crazy ghetto from like from Cecil B. Moore all the way like 40 blocks up, kind of endless. Like, and it's I worked up there. When I went to Temple, I ended up graduating. Or I didn't even graduate. I got out my fourth year. I left because I was like, fuck school, and I got a job as a social worker, and I worked up in these high schools up there.
Wow. And it's been pretty gangster, huh?
It was fucked up, man. I mean, like, back to the drugs we were talking about. We weren't talking about drugs, but I was talking about it with Ernest earlier.
I'm always talking about it in the back of my head.
But the kids I was working with were just so geeked up on Ritalin. Like one of the kids couldn't even read. One of my kids, and they didn't care. It wasn't like, let's teach the kid to read. It's like, give him Ritalin so he doesn't bother any other kids in school. It was like fucked up. And these kids were just like the government was actually building these drug addictions for these kids from like 10 years old already.
Damn.
And there was no idea to fix this fucking place they lived at and like help with their parents who were, you know, dealing crack on the side. There was never like, how do we fix the situation the kid lives in? It was like, just give him some drugs so we can move on. Yeah. That was like the way that the government in the city dealt with it. And I did that for a little while and I just fucking quit. And wow. But honestly, I learned a lot from, that was my hardest job I ever had, was doing that. It was called TSS. It was like therapeutic staff support. I went to schools with the kids and like wrote notes about the kids and helped them with whatever he needed and stuff like that, like one-on-one with a kid for a few weeks. And it was rough to see like that I was like literally shadowing this kid every day, helping him and doing reports on what he was doing.
You know, it's funny. I remember growing up, like one of the hardest things was like just the amount of poverty that there really is in a lot of the black community, you know? Yeah. And in the white community too, it's just a little bit different, I feel like. But
I mean, there's so much poverty in America still.
Yeah.
Like, and it's going to get worse and worse for what we have right now. I mean, just living in LA, you see the homeless situation, how insane that
growing.
is. And to see, when you move here for the first time, I actually used to take people to Skid Row just to be like, who are from Europe. I'm like, have you ever seen this, something like this? Because it's like block by block. And it's like a little community there. And, you know, a lot of people that are homeless in California are like, have mental health problems where they actually can't exist in a normal way. And they have, that's like the last resort for them to survive is to be homeless. But I've noticed during this pandemic, there's a little, I live in Hollywood, but there's like one overpass and it just keeps growing. Small little community there. And the people are younger and younger.
Wow.
And they're not even like, maybe they have mental health problems, but their kids are like, they're well put together. They have like, some of this girl is like a punk rock girl. It was like every day she's up at like 7 putting her mohawk in, but she just lives in this tent because she, like, you know, when it was a stay-at-home order, she had nowhere to go.
Right.
Like, she probably lived with their parents or whatever, and like had to leave. So I think a lot of kids, we're seeing a lot more of this poverty situation happening with young people that never happened before, and I think that's not being addressed. And LA is just, it's a fucking lot of homeless going on here, and I think it's a lot.
There's a lot of money here too, which is shocking. You know, it's really interesting. I mean, even hearing you say about when you were doing the TSS stuff, and that water bottle might be uneven on the bottom of it. I saw.
In the fall.
Yeah. Just
This got a what you took the. Oh, I know you took
FYI.
the lap labels off.
I don't know why we did actually
That
either.
Poland Spring sponsorship.
I think because it was. I think because we were giving out pour waters. We're gonna do Dasani from now on.
Dasani sucks.
Core water is expensive. I invested in core water.
Did you really?
Yeah, in the beginning, I made a lot of money out of core water.
I love core water.
They sold to Dr. Pepper, and I got Dr. Pepper stock at the end. I was like, what? I had to wait a year to sell it, and I finally did. I was like, all right, now.
Dude, Dr. Pepper was one of the only beverages when I was growing up. There was like 5 beverages, and one of them was Dr. Pepper. Well,
Shout
here's
out
the thing
Dr.
I wanted
Pepper.
to say. So, like, it's interesting because throughout time, it's like, yeah, they try to put different
That's right.
things into communities. It's like you were saying, they try to, you know, they'll try to diversify communities.
Yeah.
Like, oh, let's bus in kids
Yeah.
from different places. Let's try and flood it with drugs. Let's use, drugs will be the solution, you know. I think we're starting to realize over time that, or money, let's just try and pump money. And I think money definitely helps, you know. You know, a lot of people talk about white privilege, and I think a lot about green privilege. I think there is some white privilege.
Yeah.
But I don't know if, but I know that money, like you look at a place like Atlanta, I was talking with Boosie about it, and just when you see that wealth, when you go to Atlanta and you see for the first time, I remember the first time I went there, it was just, it seemed like just like the place where the Braves play.
Right.
And then over time, it's become, you see wealthy black people,
Yeah.
and you see, oh, this is what happens when a community of people has money. They live more, I don't want to say comfortably like in their assets, but comfortably inside of themselves
Yeah.
as a human, you know? Like you don't see
I mean, I think
the kids that I grew up around where it was like,
Yeah.
you know, kids that just were just, you know, some of them didn't have parents, kids like 15, 20 years old couldn't even read, you know?
even the music scene, I think coming from Atlanta recently, a lot of these kids, you know, when you grew up, hip hop, you know, rappers came from like the lowest parts of a city, or it was like they had to claw their way out to make music. And I think the last 10 years, you have kids from the suburbs that actually are like changing the game. Like Lil Nas X, good example. He's like, I think, I'm not going to speak on his family. I think he might be a middle class kid, but he's like, he had the opportunity to put his energy in something that maybe he wasn't going to be a rapper.
Right.
But
Like if he wasn't middle class, would he have been able to have that ability
and then he
do that?
changed the game. He had like the biggest record of all time, actually. And I think that's something that happened because of, you know, putting people in a position where they can have a little more opportunities. Because at some point, I'm a firm believer that anybody in America can honestly make their way up to where they can. I know that I'm going to have a lot more opportunities being a white guy.
Right.
My parents put me in a place that made it healthier. But my father, you know, he was dirt poor. He had no opportunities. He had to go to the Vietnam War just to get it. He was like not even have a job just to get a GI Bill to go to college. And he go to college, so he was like late 20s. And he's the only person to go to college out of like whole generation of his family for like 100 years. And he made it, and like went to college, graduated like like when he was 30 or something, and got a job at a hospital, worked his way up to have a great job at a hospital, and put me to college. Like gave me the funds to go to University of Central Florida. So we didn't spend that much money, but I would have never done it. I wouldn't. I mean, I can get a student loan now, which I suggest never doing like to anybody, because I think it's the biggest sham there is. But my dad was able to do that, and I think, and he also, maybe being white, you know, down south, also probably helped him secure a job in different places like Mississippi or Alabama. But at the same time, I think it's possible for anybody, but it's different. Like the road's going to be a lot flatter for me to climb than it's going to be for a young black guy who has to go up, you know, high. But if you're in the middle class, that's, you know, I think the economy doesn't really see race. It's like an algorithm. It sees zeros and numbers. It sees numbers.
Right.
So, right. You know, like I think tech funds, all these things like that doesn't like they're not inherently racist. Our political, social, economic system in America is inherently racist. It's probably by default because it's been built that way, and you can't deconstruct it that easily. But
Right. It takes time.
it does take time. But I think you said like money is going to give people more experiences that they can take. I mean, having disposable income is you're going to spend money on music. You're going to go to concerts, and when the economy is good, actually the music scene grows a lot more. And I mean, right now you're not going to have a lot of new music in 2020 because no one's touring. People are scared to put out their records. No one's writing. No one's spending money at shows.
People are surviving. I mean, even as you said, it's like not a time. It's when people are. It hadn't really been the time really to make maybe new music.
Yeah.
It's funny. Yeah, I think piggybacking on what you're saying, it's like when you're surviving, when you have to expend energy surviving, it's hard to fantasize or to imagine or to dream or to you can't. It's really hard to do both.
Like me, I never had opportunity. I didn't start making music till I was like 20, like really putting my energy into it. So I was like 19, 20. Most kids they started like Billie Eilish like at 11, 12. Like I was even as a DJ, I didn't put my first record out till like 26, and that's like I'm a grandpa.
Days,
a rapper. If you're not coming out at 16 years old now, you're like you're you're old as fuck. So
who's his dad?
But I think now kids have that opportunity. Like they have a little, like I said, like SoundCloud. They don't need that fucking the ceiling. They can break through.
Yeah.
If you have a good idea, good concepts. But right now there's not a lot of. We're in like a TikTok generation. Like music's kind of we're only digesting 15 seconds of songs right now.
Yeah, it's almost like you have to have that hook.
Yeah, which is not
to the rest of the music.
I don't think a lot of TikTok records don't make artists though. So I hope it's a phase. I'm not mad at TikTok, and I've used my TikTok to my advantage sometimes. But I think a lot of the songs that come out, you get this guy has a song on TikTok that's like, I'm not gonna give examples. Like might have like become a number one record and still only has like 30,000 followers on Instagram because no one's actually checking for the artist. They're just looping this moment. Right. It's about the influencer that's doing it.
Yeah, I think TikTok is just like it's this weird. I don't know if those people become real artists off of there.
Yeah, they don't. I think it's a trend thing, but I think hopefully there might be someone that comes out of it that you're like, whoa, SoundCloud rap came out. I thought it was all kind of garbage, and then XXXTentacion came out. I was like, this guy, a real artist, came out of it.
Yeah,
and like had like kind of put the whole thing on his shoulder. Even at 6ix9ine, I think he came out of it. I was like, he survived it and lasted. So, but all those other rappers that had like songs out, they're gone. It's like they had like 1 month people played their records and it was hype, and then they're out.
Do you feel like, because you do, I mean, you really love to experience different cultures, it seems like, and I mean, you talk about it's at the forefront of your communication, like, do you feel, a lot of people get accused of cultural appropriation and stuff these days, which, it's a huge discussion topic, really. Yeah. But I feel, but sometimes you're more of a liaison for cultures. I feel
100%. I'm a cultural appropriator. I mean, like I think that's.
Do you feel that?
I think.
Do you really feel that way?
I just don't think there's anything wrong with it. Like even just me doing country music, I wasn't like I'm starting doing country music at 25.
You weren't born at a fucking rodeo.
Yeah, like I wasn't born. Like I don't belong.
Yeah, you weren't in Dallas Buyers Club or something.
So it's not like it's not that would be pretty epic. But like I think anything you do culturally, like I don't think. What am I supposed to do? Like what defines me?
What am I supposed to do? Exist in a place?
I grew up in Mississippi. I mean, I Florida. Am I supposed to like ride an alligator or just like work at Walgreens? I don't know. There's not any. I don't think anybody should be defined. And if you put rules on culture and music, you're setting yourself up for like constricting anything, any ideas. I mean, someone should have said Lil Nas X. You're not allowed to do this. You're not allowed to make country music. I started doing like more random music earlier in my career to where if I started doing like Major Lazer now, I would never have flown, or if I did like, I look back at like my video, my bounce video for Express Yourself, this New Orleans, I can never make a video like that now, like girls twerking, I'm like the only white guy in the video, and like I'm DJing, I'm like in downtown New Orleans. I mean, like I look back and like that was a moment that couldn't happen now because there's like rules and regulation to that. Is there, I think, I'm a liaison. As a producer, that's always been my job. I've been fascinated by music.
Right.
The people that inspired me, someone like David Bowie, he did funk, he did glam, he did like folk music. His biggest hit was like Let's Dance with Niles Rodgers. I mean, it was like full on like the guy who did Chic. I mean, and no one ever said like he's, culturally appropriating something. He just was an artist.
Right.
I mean, art is art.
Yeah. And you have to be influenced. Like, You
Yeah.
have to be influenced by things. I mean, my favorite, Richard Pryor's my favorite comedian. Chris Rock's my second favorite comedian. And my other is this guy named Jerry Clower, actually, who's out of Yazoo City, Mississippi. I'll have to send you some of his stuff, man. Because you've literally, since you've sat here, has made me want to fucking listen to so much more music.
I mean, I think with music, also I owe a lot. Like a band like The Clash is probably like my biggest influence because they started with punk, they did reggae, they did hip hop, and they made a record. My favorite record of all time might be Rock the Casbah, which is like political. It's a dance record. It's beautifully done. It's produced really well. And if they came out today, people have been like, "What are you doing that? For? You know, like what are you doing?" But I think that argument, I've been hearing that argument about culturally appropriating music for like 20 years, and I just don't go away. People listen to my music. If they like it, they like it. I hope that my music affects you to where you want to listen to it and you're like, oh, I love this country. Even with the country stuff, I mean, Nashville's not fucking with my country music sometimes. I think you listen to it, they're like, but if a kid, like, you know, I'm making it for that 14-year-old kid driving around. Like, he doesn't think about like the rules when he listens to my music. I'm like, oh, this isn't supposed to listen to that, you know?
And in fact, he probably doesn't want to listen to the radio station that his parents listen to.
I think he shouldn't, but I think he should have a lot of education on music because I am, as a DJ, I know so much about music. I think that's the only thing I've done. So I know where I came from. I know that I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for black music, even like black and gay music when it comes to house records. I know where the roots come from, and I know to show support and love when I can to those people because that's actually that's what I can do for those people who are in the scene. Like if it's like a young black DJ, I'm gonna fucking book him over another young white DJ just because, or if it's a young woman, because that's something I can do. Right. And that's actually important. If I can make music and get to a position where I can help other people make more music,
well, it
that's
seems like
the
you
best
try to
thing
do that. I mean, it seems like you try to do that with your label.
Yeah, 100%.
But it does get hard to juggle though, doing your own and then also being a producer. Does it hard to get juggle?
Not really. Both? I think that I used to just always, like a good example, like Beyonce. I always mark a record for Beyonce or Rihanna, and if they wouldn't take it, I'd make it my record. You know, I worked to make it for them because those are the two artists I was constantly, you know, the manager's like, can we hear some ideas? And I would focus on that, and then I would never get the record done for them. But I'd be like, okay, I made this great record that they didn't take. Like good stories like Lean On, my biggest probably record I ever made with Major Lazer was written for Rihanna originally. And the story is I played in the studio and she just was like not fucking with it.
Wow.
And but blessing, because I own the master of that record, you know, and like I made like shitload of money and the record reached a lot of people, and I was proud of it. And we made a video in India actually.
Damn,
with like no money, like $75,000, and then if I made that video today, people would have it would have been canceled, you know, because like
I love India.
We're just chilling in India. I had a show there, I had played for all these kids. Like, let me just spend the money I made at the show on the video, and you know, here, and we had our girl came out, and the video, it's actually nice and awesome. You know, it's a vibe. People are gonna criticize it. I mean, you're gonna get criticism all the time. You're gonna get haters. I've had it for so long.
It's hard, man. It's hard not to. And especially these days, I even worry more about comedy. It's like, how can I talk about stuff? How can I try and share, you know, my truth, or share, like, you know, what my story is, or even what my thoughts are.
Yeah.
Without being,
I think
like,
sarcasm
shut
is lost. That sucks for comedy because sarcasm is a fucking art form, right? And I think, and people don't fucking get, they don't even take a time to like realize it. And then you get stuck on like the quotable or whatever. And then you get fucked on something that you listen to the context of my joke or whatever. And I think comedy should be indifferent to that, but it's never.
Yeah, I don't know how it gets back to that, because it's like my first Netflix special is a lot of it is real tongue in cheek. It's almost like a character, you know, in a weird way. And some people take it verbatim, and it's like, oh, but you don't see what I'm doing. You don't see what's going on here, you know. But sarcasm is really,
it's hard. You have to be, if you're gonna go see a comedian, you have to give him artistic license. I think as a fan, you should. And if something happens and the person is taken out of context, dig into it, and that person can defend themselves too. I think it's fair enough, but you should be careful because if nothing else, I think cancel culture is pretty fucking whack. But if nothing else, it does help to take away some of the things that shouldn't be done.
Right.
So, but I think we're gonna survive this, and people are gonna like what they like. If there's something's funny and they know it's, you know, at the end of the day, be a good person, be kind, be informed about things. I think, you know, when it comes to defund the police or Black Lives Matter, things like that, I don't want to talk about politics in the show, but I think if you get into it and you kind of just read a little bit, you can understand a little bit more about what this idea is, what the concept is. The words themselves are really scary.
Well, yeah, it makes me think, I mean, if you stay on Twitter, you're just going to get in fights. But I think if you know, it made me think, you know, and I see you as a big proponent of it, and, you know, being out and involved. I saw you out and involved in the protests and stuff on your Instagram. And it's made me think as a person, and then also as a white person, what do I have differences when I look at a black person? Do I have do I have different behavior? It's definitely made me think that. And that's the best thing of it.
Yeah, 100%.
Is to make me think am I driving past impoverished neighborhoods, whether they're black or white or any color? It makes me think and thinking, oh man, those people don't have anything.
Right.
But then thinking, well, am I doing anything in my life to help be a part of, the solution? And even as you said, you were working as the TSS and then they tried drugs to help with the kids. And then they tried let's bus kids from different areas. That'll change it. I think in the end, it's human connection, really.
100%.
That
kids get together. I think you see South Africa. I was bringing that back up again. These young people, these kids are like a young black guy I was talking to, and he's his girlfriend was white, and he never thought it was weird, but of course his parents and her parents probably were scared as fuck.
Nervous,
I think for them, and those are kids that are going to change the world. Those are kids that have this new definition of what it means to be
white parents,
a young person.
You bring a black kid over and they're pass the bread, and then dad will be you want me to bounce past it? He tries to make a funny joke, and you're like, oh my God.
I mean, my dad and parents, they're still,
but they're trying. Sometimes they're trying.
I root for them, but yeah, honestly, what's happened, all this attention on information has turned a lot of my nephews and stuff who were actually probably borderline racist about 2 years ago are a lot smarter, and they live in a diverse neighborhood. Their high school is probably half black, half white, but they had to it's like jail. You had to go. You have to fucking find your clique and live with it. If you're not, if you're a white person to go to jail, you have to join the white supremacy thing immediately. It's the only way to survive. I mean, it's kind of sucks, but it's that's the fucking definition we have. And in high school, same thing.
It's
kids,
gay or German, bro. If you get in jail,
gay or German. So I think we have that's going to be hard to get past that, But I think at the same time, I think my nephew's I talked to him a little bit. I'm like, why do you write something like that on Twitter? Because I was kind of concerned about him, and then I kind of explained to him not in a attack him way, but I'm to kind of think about things, and I think it helps. It's just conversation. Literally, it's hard because there's so much misinformation. Honestly, because we just it's not really in our face when we see the problems. That we just kind of cover them up. So it's up to everybody. You just got to learn. I mean, if you go to school,
it's up
and
to everybody to learn.
Yeah, you got to learn.
And and I think sometimes I even feel attacked as a white person. It's well, is it, some people don't want to talk about, equality or talk about, some people also they just want to be controlling, and they, so you have to, it's hard to kind of, it's tough. It's a tough balance because
a lot of people are just, it's tribal. People feel this is my tribe. I'm white and I have to fight for this or whatever. They don't realize that's,
and black too.
I mean, same thing. And people think, and I think that's what, we're in this position, and when Trump, his whole campaign is like based on division. He doesn't have a campaign stance. I'm not going to endorse anybody, but I think that it's so easy for him to do that because that disinformation, that tribalism is what creates any energy for him, because he has no energy otherwise, because he has no stance on anything. He has no purpose as a president. He has
he's just
nothing
more
to stand
of a shady,
on.
I've always seen him as a shady businessman,
Yeah.
kind of, which sometimes in some aspects of it's what a lot of America has become.
Yeah.
So I'm not shocked that he's the
I
president.
mean, it's a
But
reality.
emotionally, he doesn't appear to have that ability to connect on an emotional level, or to emotionally understand.
I love when someone asks him his favorite Bible chapter. He's like, I'm not going to answer that. I love the whole book. Old Testament, New Testament. He's like, I love them equally. Both those, he has no idea about it. He never read the Bible his whole life. But
what Black Testament, White Testament, he's love them both.
Yeah, he doesn't have any opinion.
Dude, it's almost, it's so funny you talking about wrestling earlier. Everything is turned really into the WWE. It's all about 15-second bits. It's all about
fucking WWE
hype.
Though. God damn, the racial stereotypes and how crazy it was. But it defined me as a kid. I learned about everything. I
loved them.
There was the fucking. There was Sergeant Slaughter. There was the Junkyard Dog. There was the fucking Australian dudes. There was a fucking Chinese guy. There was an Iranian terrorist. But even Sergeant Slaughter wasn't a good guy. He was a bad guy. It was there was no rules. It was Hulk Hogan became a bad guy for a while. It was
Coco Beware came in with that bird on his shoulder.
Everything was the most. They just built the stereotypes so crazy. And as a kid, you learned about everything. You learned about it. You were
Tatanka.
Yeah. Wow.
That's one of your favorite wrestlers. And but that's how a lot a lot of us learned about, dude, the only Asian...
He was probably a hero to Tonka, right? You probably loved it. You're like, fuck yeah.
He was my guy. I had a hatchet that he would come out with a hatchet.
There was no definition. There was no good or bad. Like after a while, like everybody was bad or the good. Like he'd probably turn into a heel. If he was there long enough, you become the heel, right? You become the guy that's like the evil guy.
Totally. They got to spin it around.
I love it.
I got one last question I want to ask you, and I'm just trying to remember what it is in my head real quick.
Tatanka.
And I could talk to you forever, but I just,
Ricky the Dragon Steamboat too.
Oh, dude, that was the only Asian person that I knew growing up. Was
then
Ricky the Dragon.
Yokozuna came in at the end. He was the sumo guy.
Iron Sheik.
Iron Sheik.
I may remember Iron Sheik.
He got big on Twitter because he
DM'd me sometime. He had this amazing Iron Sheik and Hacksaw Jim Duggan story where they were like on a coke bender together and they got arrested in like Alabama or something, and they were supposed to be like arch rivals. Like Hacksaw Jim Duggan was like the pro-American guy, and then Iron Sheik was like the Iranian terrorist, and they partied together. And then they animated the story once. They got caught by the police, and they had to go to jail together. And they got caught like, oh, they're friends, and it kind of ruined their whole fucking storyline.
Ruined the whole vibe. Yeah. Did you see the documentary, Did you see the Jake the Snake documentary?
No, I gotta watch that.
Man, it's so good.
Has he become governor?
No, that's
Jesse Ventura.
Jesse Ventura, yeah.
Jake the Snake, his best thing was though, sometimes he had to check the snake, and they would put it down below in the plane, and the cold air would kill the snake. So he would literally...
He had to get a new snake all the time?
Or sometimes he'd bring out his bag with a dead snake in it, and it never came out of the bag.
Damn, he could have been an emotional support snake nowadays.
Yeah, totally. Can you imagine?
I bet they have those. Oh, they have those?
There's a woman that had a kangaroo on a plane.
They had a horse like recently. They took the horses out though. That was too crazy. I love these guys. And also, you can be a fucking wrestler and be like 45 and just still be like a sex symbol.
Yeah.
I need those. I'm 41, so I need to like figure out what my next move is, man.
And wear those tights, man. Do you have a, I look at John Mayer sometimes.
They're not fit either.
And no, you just had to be a fucking man, dude.
They're not.
I'm waiting for some real gay wrestlers to come out.
Oh, there was Goldust.
Oh, I didn't even know.
Goldust was the gay. He was like borderline gay. You don't know, but it wasn't even like a controversial thing. Racism. I mean, it was like, it was no rules, man.
Well, don't you find how interesting it is?
Goldust wrestler, I think. I think it was Dusty Rhodes' son.
Mm-hmm. Don't you find it interesting how online people are one way and in real life they're different?
Yeah, I mean, also being online is anonymous. You don't have to be anything. You just be fake. Yeah. People are like inherently like racist just because they want to do that. I mean, that's what the online world kind of sucks.
Yeah,
because you don't really get a real person out there anymore, you know?
Yeah, and it's funny because you would argue with someone online, but if you met with them and had the same conversation, you would not. It probably wouldn't be an argument.
Also, people like they want to stroke controversy, and they'll do anything for retweets and just to get a little hype on things. Like some other DJs, right? Like called me out during this whole protest moment, and I'm like, I know the people, and I'm like, bro, you're gonna get a couple retweets for this, and I'm DM like, are you gonna like this worth like not having a friendship with me anymore for this? And some of them are just like, how to cut people off sometimes. Like just like they get just to get a little hype, get a little retweet is like, talk to me if you have a problem, like let's do something, let's hash it out.
Yeah, let's discuss it. And here's Post Malone's son.
Gang, what's up, Theo? What's up, Diplo? I got a question for Diplo. If you weren't making electronic music, what do you think you'd be doing? Like, if that just wasn't an option, what do you think you'd be doing right now? Much love, guys. Take care.
It's funny because that's what I was going to ask. John Mayer, I've seen him do comedy before.
Yeah.
And I thought he was extremely funny for a guy who doesn't get to get reps like everyone else and the reason he says he doesn't is because I can't get up there at a blank slate anymore. It's just, it's not how it's going to interact with society, people get to get up and practice with a blank slate.
Yeah.
And I think he would have been a great comedian. Is there something else you like, but he just didn't have enough time. It's funny with life, you only get really so much time.
I mean, I saw him once do it at the Peppermint Lounge with Dave Chappelle, and it was one of those ones where you lock your phone up. And I think it was a lot of the stuff that was on Dave's, like, was it on Netflix special or something like 2 years ago?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So he did a lot of that material, and it was pretty controversial. And I think he kept some of it out. I can't remember repeat some of it, but and he had like Eddie Murphy in the front. It was like and it was awesome because it was like that was like a no fucking holes barred, like do whatever he wanted without the phones because you can't really word of mouth. He did something controversial, no one cares.
Right,
a video of it, it's like. It's evidence or whatever, right?
Yeah, and clubs have started doing that, locking your phones in bags.
which is I think it's kind of the only way to keep people like it's your experience is here. You're not going to take this and go get a gotcha moment on a comedian or something.
Yeah, but
he did it with John Mayer, and it was awesome. He did like it was very improvised, which cool. I think the whole thing was improvised, and that's scary to me. But they have reports, like a podcast, I guess, right? You just kind of. I mean, we wouldn't be very good on a comedy stage, but maybe we have to put some practice a little bit, but. They had it. They had the chemistry, and it just works.
Well, I think John, but I just thought I feel like John is just a genius and almost he could have gotten into a couple different things, but he got into music, and so that's where his creativity went.
His current mood is awesome though. His little TV show he does
it's great.
On Instagram Live. And he was the first guy to do it before there was like pornos on Instagram Live, which took over. He was like had the first popping Instagram Live, and it was really funny and very clever, and he's fucking smart guy. He's a really smart guy. But is there something else that you feel like, man, if I'd have had more,
like, do you think you could have been, you're a great producer. Do you think, an entertainer, musician, do you think you could have been something else?
I'm like a cultural agitator. You might say appropriate, whatever it is. I think that you can go and read a lot about what cultural appropriation means, but I was always felt like a cultural agitator to where I went to school. The reason I went to Temple is because I went to school for anthropology, because I was obsessed with culture. Like literally, I was obsessed with like what it means to be a human being, like what it is to be creative, and what defines you from who you are to create what you are. And I was obsessed with like the history of people and like different places. Like, why do Japanese people dress like this, and why do they make music like this, and what's Hindu religion about, and like what does it mean to be like maybe what's it like to be living in Texas and like work at a cement factory? Like, what is this? Like, this is what I was always obsessed with. And I went to school for anthropology and documentary filmmaking. And I was like, I really wanted to bring people and culture to life in a clever way, in a new way. And I worked on some documentaries. I even made one a couple of years ago before I started making music about Brazil, because I was like obsessed with like the music there and the culture and the weirdness of it. It's just fucking weird. Like
Salvador once, and it was wild.
No, because that place is just defined by, it's a fucking mess. It's European, it's Portuguese, it's African, it's Indian, it's Japanese. It's like all those things create something. And that's why I've kind of like always shy away from like discussing like what it means to create culture, because culture is mutations, and for it to move and for things to be created, you have to put two things together that shouldn't belong or that are random. Like a Japanese, like if you go to in Sao Paulo, there's a neighborhood called Liberdade, and it's 1 million Japanese Brazilians live in this neighborhood, and you walk around and see like Japanese guys named like Miguel Carvalho Kawasaki, and he's got like long hair and he's fucking walking around like a fucking G, and you're like, that's not
Diplo's son, I bet.
Yeah, but that's a real fucking
right.
That's a thing. And that's like I'm like, I love that exists, and like what comes from that, and like why is there samba music or bossa nova, and it comes from these things that just explosions, right? And that's what culture is to me, and I always want to be part of that.
I love that. So you love culture, man.
So even if it's not just the music just seems to be the easiest way for people to digest culture is like music, because that's like going to be your introduction to country music, your introduction to like African music. The music is it. You don't have to read about the history of Africa to like understand a Nigerian record. It just affects you.
Right.
So that's why I love music and the idea of culture. But I would love to work back in film and documentary. That would be cool if I get older, because I mean, my days are numbered as a DJ. I hope that I don't want to be like a 55-year-old DJ. If I can make it that long, I'll do it if it pays the bills. But at the end of the day, I want to age gracefully and do more things. I think music was one thing I do. Maybe it's film and TV next. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe I own a pizza shop or something.
Yeah.
Maybe a woodworker.
I could see that, dude. Would you I have to fucking pee so bad, man.
I have to pee too. Right. Yeah, if you want to watch this movie, it's hour and 25 minutes, but it's not that well done. But I funded the whole movie by myself. Like I would get shows. I would go back to Brazil.
Favela on blast.
Yeah, I would get money from shows and go back to Brazil and bring a camera and like shoot shit.
Who shot it with you?
It's a guy in Brazil that I knew named Leandro. He's a filmmaker that I met. I worked at this magazine called Colors as a young person. I got a job there, and I met a bunch of filmmakers and stuff, and I just kept in touch with them before internet, and this is like 2007 or something. No, 2000 or 2004. And I just met some creative people, and I met this guy. We made a movie together, and I would never ever suggest doing something like this on your own. Like I just like the biggest waste of money I made, like, and having like the pressure of creating it, and like having like be stingy on the budget, like everything I made money wise, I put back in the movie for that couple of years. So. And
yeah, you go halfway down the road, you got to get all the way there.
Yeah.
Yeah. I got to pee so bad. I'm sorry.
Yeah, me too. Should we go pee together?
Yeah, maybe go pee together.
Is there different styles? All right, let's go.
Oh, this one I want to ask you about. So ego. So like, in the last couple of years, I've had a bigger career, right? And so, there are moments where my ego starts to get big, and I always knew I had maybe some ego. We all have it.
Yeah.
But I never really thought like, oh, well, what is, like, and there's moments where it started to feel really, not out of control, but it grows without my consciousness of it growing. Did you ever have any issues like with that, or just, were you ever able to see that in your own life?
I think that's, people probably see it more than I do. When it comes to ego, because I'm just like, I'm a kind of an independent person, and maybe it affects other people's lives, like my friends or my family, and sometimes they put me in check. But for the most part, I mean, being humble is where I think I got where I'm at. Like, you always gotta pay dues and just feel good. But if you really want an ego check, just go on Twitter every once in a while and just see what people are talking shit about. And that'll fucking break you down pretty quick. I also think I started about 4 years ago. I did ayahuasca for the first time, and that's a fucking ego deflator, like hardcore. Like, you do that, and it's like a drug that kind of puts you, like, you might even poop your pants.
Damn.
So it just kind of breaks down.
Yeah.
That whatever you feel, you become like more of a it naturalizes you in a way. I don't explain it. Yeah, it kind of gives you the shame. Yeah, like, and you're puking and you're thinking of things, and it's dark and then it's bright, and you go through a lot of things. The best way to explain it, how it helps you, is that if you have a messy closet, right? When you do ayahuasca, it kind of helps put everything in the drawers, so you can like understand things a little better, because that's what your brain probably is. It's like a messy closet sometimes. But I've done that, and the 2 times I did it, it really helped ground me to where I had another outlook a little bit. And I try to use that message now when because it is important to not have an ego, but at the same time, ego's back to 6ix9ine. It got him where he's at. Like, even if it's all big play, he knows he's using it for his advantage. Sometimes it could work. It could backfire pretty easy if you don't have it planned out. If you're not playing chess with it, if you're playing like checkers with it, it could backfire on you. But
we had one of my favorite comedians is a guy, Chris D'Elia, and he would always reference you on his Instagram. What am I, Diplo? Yeah. Did you ever interact with him about that? Did you think that it was funny?
He was friends with Dylan Francis early on, and I think I met him through that, and I never met him actually, but we just I didn't understand. I don't know if he was making fun of me or not at the beginning, but I was retweeting it and I thought it was pretty funny.
Yeah, it was so funny.
But I was like, I'm not even that special, but I guess I'm like a B-level celebrity that he picked, because I thought you could have picked somebody better or whatever, but it was kind of cool. I got a lot of people always tag me when he did that.
Yeah, it's funny. I thought, because then I got to go to, once I started getting like nice green room and stuff, I was like, what am I, Chris D'Elia? It made it so it was fun for me, because then I got to do it to just make fun, like bring him into it, or be part of his thing from it. But yeah, I was just wondering how that landed on you.
I never really, he always comment on my Instagrams, and he was like, dude, he's bizarre. Like, I think that's what's really cool about him. It was like,
he's real creative.
You scratch your head when you see some of the stuff he does. And I think Dylan Francis, another DJ, was like kind of like borderline comedy and a DJ, which is kind of a cool space, because no one really does that. But Dylan was really, he acts and is in TV shows and stuff like that.
Chris is too creative, man.
He's like Riff Raff. Sometimes you watch some of those videos, you're like, what the fuck are you? And I don't think he's trying to like not even land him to be funny. It's just almost like it's just something, which is great. Was a real creator can kind of not really aim for like a success, but just like a shock value thing. Another guy who I love, who's kind of like half comedian, half dancer, is this guy named I'm gonna have to look him up. I always forget his name. He's a dancing guy. It's gonna take a second. We just gotta edit this out.
No worries. There's a guy, Cholo Fit Creeper, that I like, who's Latino.
Oh, is that dog face guy too? That he's like a Crip, kind of like dances and does comedy.
Yeah.
I sent his thing to
Frankie Quinones, which I think is the best last name. If I could have any last name, it would be Quinones.
Quinones is a good one.
Yeah.
It's this guy, Casey Frey.
Oh yeah, Casey Frey.
Bro, I mean, first of all, he's one of the sickest dancers ever. And he doesn't really dance that often, but some of his comedy is just like so what the fuck. And then the way he integrates like dance and comedy, like I don't even think he does. He does it on purpose. He just is like, it's just special.
It's just who he is. Yeah.
I played basketball a couple times. We know each other just from he's friends with a lot of DJs, and just love that guy. He's like he inspires me a lot.
He seems really cool. People always say you gotta talk to Casey Frey, or you gotta connect with him. Maybe that's a good vibe that I need to. I think that's everything that I have, man. I mean, I could keep talking about stuff, but I just want to, thank you for your time.
And, man.
And it's interesting. Yeah, man, I do think it's interesting how, like, even just from talking to you, it makes me want to know a little bit more about, makes me want to know more about music, but it makes me want to also have a little bit more respect for, like, the history of music. Because, people don't realize, like, that even just, like, humans, like, music comes from, like, parents.
Yeah.
Like, music, like, each sound has, like, a couple of parents to it, and grandparents, and then
I mean, I think you do the same thing that I do with comedy. Like, you know the history, like you said, some of your favorite comedians.
Oh yeah, I do know a good bit about
it. I think like you know you're gonna be, you know, you're the comedy of right now, so you have to take all the things that happened before you, understand that, twist it up, and then know how far you can push things. And I heard Kevin Hart say that once. He's like, he has a black comedian, he always like, he's gonna push it further than and then there's gonna be someone in 5 years gonna push it further than him. It's like their job. His idea is just to blaze a trail. And I think it's gonna be the same thing. Like, you know the history, and you're gonna push it as the character that you are and the person you are. And I think it's a little bit difficult now because you have to walk a tighter line with comedy. I almost
like the challenge part of me sometimes. Yeah. Last week I was like, 2 weeks ago I was scared.
Yeah.
And then last week I was like, you know what? This is what it is, and I think that I can do it. It's going to make people be a little bit tighter about what they do almost.
When you have a set of rules, this sounds fucked up because we were just talking about how there should be no rules or anything, but it also can create something special. I'm going to give you a really boring metaphor. You're probably going to edit this out, but I went to film school and I went to a class called Iranian cinema. Mm-hmm. And
damn, bro, that's crazy. Because I live in Westwood, bro. So
okay, this might be some people, but Iran has this amazing film industry in the 90s, and there's a director called Abbas Kiarostami, and he made a movie called like Water for, or something about chocolate.
Water for chocolate?
Something for chocolate. Maybe look up the film, because I don't want to fucking butcher this.
Water for chocolate.
Water for chocolate. But he is a famous director because in Iran, it's such a Muslim country, and the rules to make a film, like you can't show any women without the hair mask. You have to talk about God in certain ways. There's like all these fucking rules. Wow. But these guys made these films where it's like such a narrow line they can walk, and they always win like awards worldwide for these films they make. This guy especially, because it's just like, he made a lot of films, but I think having those rules and having to have to work inside that became something really, you have to push even harder to get that creative juice in people to know what you're talking about and make a message happen. So,
dude, that's so interesting to hear you say that. Yeah, because the rules, it was almost like when the teacher or if the government, whatever it is, it tells you, okay, these are the rules. There's something then inside of you that's like, okay, I see your rules. Yeah. I'm gonna play by the rules, but watch what I'm gonna do.
Find a loophole or something.
Yeah, man, that's pretty fascinating. Thomas Wesley, thank you so much for being here. Do you like Diplo or do you like Thomas?
My real name is actually Thomas Wesley Pence, but just like I put the Thomas Wesley my first and middle name because a lot of country guys have two first names. It's kind of the vibe. Right. But yeah, Wesley's my real name. People always call me Wesley.
Do you feel like you're still Diplo? Do you feel like it's been like you're a snake or something ever that shed its skin? Do you feel like it's just something that?
I mean, people when fans see me now, they go Thomas because they just read my Wikipedia page or whatever. They don't want to say Diplo. It's also not a very cool name, but it's like, it's more of
it almost seems tribal a little bit though, in a weird way.
It never had really a defined reason to be called that, but whatever. It worked for me, and I did a lot of different music. But at this point, I have so many different little bags. Like I do like Thomas Wesley. I did like the Major Lazer. I did this thing called Silk City with Mark Ronson. I did a thing called LSD with Sia and Labyrinth, and it was like a psychedelic project. So I'm just like fascinated with like you can do things, you can do different things, and
you can be different people.
And that's kind of like it throws you into a tussle if you kind of want to bring out the like, cultural whatever. I do whatever. So you can't really. I know no group can be mad at me for too long. So I'm gonna move on to the next thing by the time they figure out what they're mad about.
It's interesting the cultures that are kind of within us, even within our types of thought. Like sometimes we might not even recognize that repeated thoughts that we have inside of us, or even take on a culture of our own. And if we're afraid to act on those, are we like kind of putting a dam on like some ability of our own creativity and stuff?
Art is like, man, that's the one thing, man. Putting art in a box is like you're keeping yourself from so many experiences that could happen.
Yeah,
it's always about being like opening yourself up a little bit, and it's all about just being a good person, being kind, having empathy, and create. But do things responsibly. It's not that hard. You can fuck up. Also, you can fuck up and fucking fix it.
And say a fuck, yeah.
You can say you can fuck up. I mean, look at people always talk about XXXTentacion. I brought him up a lot in this conversation. I don't know if you know his music that well, but he had he was a rapper that
I know just of his death and
he had a terrible history with women and violence on women, and a lot of people, wrote him off for that. And I feel him. If they want to, they can. They have the right to do that. But he affects a lot of people's lives where his music really touched people in a way that rap hasn't done that in a long time. People like have records that had this like Kurt Cobain feeling, which was really and raw, and people affected that way. Like Lil Peep did the same thing. And I think it's okay for him to work at himself and be better And I think the music, like I said, music's about a feeling. Music is something that doesn't have to have history sometimes.
Right.
A lot of people die. I mean, you can also define like Michael Jackson, take him off the radio. Some people say that. I mean, do what you want. I'm not going to take Michael Jackson off my iTunes. I'm not going to stop playing his records.
If you don't give people the ability to like recognize or learn or evolve or anything,
people
that's
shouldn't
almost such a
not everybody should be defined by their history. Look, a good example is like Malcolm X, you know. If you had wrote him off, like, you know, beating women and going to prison and doing things, and went to prison, changed his life and became a great leader and an amazing, you know, philosopher in a way. So people have a lot to offer. You know, I think you need to define like what is it that's not right, and let them know that, and like let them change, and hopefully that makes it better for other people. Yeah, because cancel culture, it's easy to take down celebrities, but you're not taking down the guy next to you at a bus or whatever that's actually doing damage, or like verbally abusing or a woman that's, you know. Right. And that's what we have to find the ways to change those things, like where it's normalized for people in everyday culture, like in a frat or whatever it is. That's going to be the ones to change the world, not just like
somebody
a gotcha moment on a Twitter or something. But
yeah, I agree, man. It's definitely disheartening to see like some of that culture, you know. But to take it into our regular lives, you know, and to recognize, okay, well, first of all, what are my own behaviors that I could be, you know, like even going back to the Black Lives Matter movement and just seeing a lot of that go on, you know, like it just made me think like, okay, well, let me really ask myself, you know, if I'm talking to a black person, do I have different things in the back of my head while I'm talking with them, you know? Or if I'm with one of my black friends and my behave, you know, like just little things, which some of it's okay, some of it's just nature and it's going to be, but just make sure just to check myself to see what's going on, you know, and we have to allow spaces where people can do that. I mean,
life's
we're all
about
broken
learning.
people.
Yeah, life's about learning and changing. I mean, if we want to say it so no one can change, we're fucked. Yeah. We're fucked because that's we got to change. Everybody's got to change, and it's okay. Yeah. It's okay to do better.
Yeah.
Right.
It's okay to do better. That's a good statement. Thomas Wesley, thanks so much for being here, man.
Thank you for having me.
Appreciate
we'll do it again.
Bro. Yeah, we'll do it again.
Next country album.
Gang, dude.
Now I'm just floating on the breeze, and I feel I'm falling like these leaves. I must be cornerstone. Oh, but when I reach that ground, I'll share this peace of mind I found. I can feel it in my bones, but it's gonna take a little time for me to set that parking brake and let myself unwind. Shine